Guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson,
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
and this week we are going back to our humble roots, our humble beginnings of how many years ago was it at this point?
5.
It's been like so long.
At least half a decade.
Exactly. That makes me want to die a little bit. Half a decade.
Wait,
That seems
you
so
need
long
to be here with us.
It's not
No,
it's not
bad.
bad.
It's just
It
like-
still feels fresh.
Exactly. Okay, we're doing the controversial Scream 7.
That's so true.
It is.
Controversial.
Yeah.
All right,
Read
but
the log line and then we'll say.
if you haven't seen it yet, Scream 7 is when a new Ghostface killer emerges in the town where Sidney Prescott has built a new life. Her darkest fears are realized as her daughter becomes the next target. And like,
Okay, fine.
that happens.
Yeah,
That's true.
Perfectly whatever logline.
I will
Fitting.
say, I liked it.
You did?
I did. Because here's the thing that I will flat out tell you. I cannot tell you anything that happened in 5 or 6. Like those two movies, I guess, do not exist in my brain, and I don't rewatch them.
Sure.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fair.
I think the Scream as a franchise is beset by issues over time because they had the original trilogy, you know what I mean? And that was like maybe I don't know if it was designed as a trilogy, but I did read something the other day, and I didn't do a lot of research for this episode because I was like, if I go down the
There's
rabbit
like
hole,
not
it's just
a lot.
well about like franchise stuff in general. Because I was seeing
Oh,
like a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of TikToks, and then I was like, is that true? People are like, this was the original plot for Scream 5 back when it was supposed to be the Jill Roberts one, and I'm like, but where are you getting this information from? Nobody's like sharing. But it's gone through a lot of transformations over the years. I know when Kevin Williamson pitched the first one, he pitched potential sequel ideas. We all know that those didn't necessarily like make it onto the page and then onto the screen the way that they were originally imagined, both because there were leaks on Scream 2 that made them like change the identities of the killers, and then Scream 3 had so many
Columbine.
issues. Yeah, Columbine and Matthew Lillard got dropped, and then Kevin Williamson didn't write that book because he was off, I think, doing the only other movie he's directed at that time, because there's like some overlap in timelines there. And then Scream 4, I think, was meant to like move away from Sydney again because, and I haven't seen this said, but from what people were saying, the best I can tell, Sydney was maybe originally supposed to die in Scream 4, and then we were going to follow Jill in the original plans for Scream 5 because Jill was going to have survived and then be haunted by a new Ghostface killer who's like, I know what you did. And so it's like, how could Sydney be in that story unless it's like she's got amnesia, which like maybe she was going to have amnesia, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So they were going to do like a whole new cast of kids, new trilogy or whatever, starting with 4. And then Wes Craven died, so those plans got dropped. And then they were like starting over with 5 again, new cast of kids. And I really liked 5 and 6. I had so much fun with them. What I'm hearing about the ideas for the original Scream 7 are like, I don't know how that would have gone over necessarily, because what I'm seeing is people be like, Sam Carpenter was going to embrace her dark side and she was going to be the killer. And it's like, I don't know if that's true, but like, I don't know what the appetite is for some of these things, maybe, but they're just always reinventing the wheel in many ways. And so it's like, I don't know. It would be so nice if this franchise had one clean through line and one overarching plan, but it's just not that kind of franchise anymore.
Well, it's a horror franchise. It's never gonna, like, what one has ever had that ever? You know what I mean? Like, it's always, they always span decades. And so they're definitely gonna have different people behind the wheel as those decades continue on, because not everyone is into it forever. Not everyone's alive forever, you know? There's a lot of different things that come along the way. And, you know, this one really is very different than what we've been getting in the last two, obviously, because it's completely not completely different. We have two of the same writers. Kevin Williamson helped at least on 6. I didn't look at 5. I'm sorry. I'll look
I don't
again
think
in
he
a
was
second.
in
I don't think he was involved with 5, but he was involved in 6. And Guy Busick was involved in 6 and maybe 5 too. And he also partially wrote Scream 7, along with James Vanderbilt, same story. So there's some crossover there, but you know, uh, I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to try to not be a fucking cunt the whole time. But my first takeaway watching this the first time is like, I hated it. I literally like unadulteratedly hated it. I was like angry the whole time I was watching it. I watched it again today and I didn't feel as strongly, but that's because I knew everything that was
what
going to
you're
happen.
getting.
So I already knew what to do. But like, I know that people did like this movie. I don't think it's like completely without like value or something like that. But there's a lot of things about it that really, really ground my gears, unfortunately. So I unfortunately have to join the brigade for this one, which was disappointing because I really was excited, and I think I kind of had a feeling that it wasn't going to be for me because I was not excited about this movie literally at all until like 2 hours before I went to go see it. And I was like, maybe I'm going to get excited. Like, maybe this is going to be like really good. Oh, this could be cool. And then, yeah, it didn't really work out for me. But if it worked out for you, I'm happy for you. I always want people to have a good time. And so, you know, but I do have a lot of thoughts on how this like diverged from like the core of Scream for me in a lot of ways, because like the core of Scream to me is not just Campbell, it's not Neve Candle,
Neve Candle.
not Neve
To
Candle,
really go back to our origins again.
to really go
I
back to
do
our roots.
constantly call her Neve Candle. Actually, like
That's
is
her name. That's what she
I
wants to
know.
be called.
Every time I'm
She
like
called me the other
explaining
day
it,
on
I'm
the
like,
phone.
I
She
guess Neve
said,
Candle,
"I
and I'm
know you
like,
guys are
fuck
doing Scream
no.
7. I just want to go on the record. It's pronounced Neve Candle."
It's
Mhm.
pronounced Neve Candle. That's an Easter egg from our first episode. So if you want to go way back, but like, yes, she is the core of this, but I think what these movies really are is like a love letter to the horror franchise and to like film in general, and like film nerds and people who like really care about these movies. And I feel like this movie in particular, like, and they're always reinventing the wheel, like reinventing the ways that they're engaging with that. Like the first one is obviously the first one. Second one, I always forget what happens in the second one. Second one, they're in a movie theater for part of it. Wow, how exciting!
She's at
And
college.
it's at college. I know that, but like I'm saying like how it relates to like films in general. Third one,
It's
like
got
they're making a
sequels.
movie. Yeah, third one, they're making a movie, so there's that. Fourth one, there's the film club kids and they're videotaping and whatever. But like I really feel like this one didn't do barely anything with that subject matter,
This
and
one
it
was all about
really
nostalgia.
bothered me. I know, and that doesn't do it for me anymore. Like it just felt like nostalgia bait for me. It didn't like make me feel like, I don't know. The references that they made were fine, like they're fine, but they just like it wasn't enough for me to like the movie. Just for me.
Yeah. Monica and I were on the same page pretty much with our first viewing, which was nice because we were sitting next to each other. So if we'd had really disparate views, that would have just been a more awkward watching experience. But
Well, we were fine when
I
we watched Undertone together, and I loved it, and you didn't give a shit, so it's fine.
but I think like loving and being annoyed is different than like loving and being neutral.
Fair.
But that was one of my I mean I went in not knowing if I even like wanted to like the movie necessarily, because we've talked about this a lot in our Discord, like, are you going to see it, are you not going to see it? A lot of people are opting out for completely reasonable reasons. But I always kind of figured I probably will see it, and it's such a shame that this is like so mired in discourse and has it's so like stained at this point by what happened with Melissa Barrera and the fact that she was fired and why she was fired. But I always said it's such a shame because like a Kevin Williamson, Neve Campbell collab about Sydney, her continuing story, like Scream 1 through 3, those are Sydney movies to me. Scream 4 was obviously already moving away from that with the whole new cast of kids. Scream 5 and 6, again, obviously they were like trying to do their own new thing for a new generation, which I think makes sense. But the original 3 movies, those were like Sydney's stories to me. That's why I'm such a Scream 3 defender, even though everybody else hates Scream 3, is because I'm like, there's really interesting Sydney stuff in there.
That's true. That's true.
And so I was like, I would have been thrilled to like have this movie be announced being what it was under normal circumstances, but the way things played out, it's just messy. But I went in and I was trying to keep an open mind and an open heart. And that was one of my big complaints the first time too, is I didn't feel like I had a good grasp on what the Scream commentary was about horror as a genre right now. And there's definitely the nostalgia is like part of it. I think on a second watch, I lasered in on that they're kind of dragging true crime into the conversation more.
Yeah.
But I also think they still don't necessarily have like a thesis statement on it by any means. Like they're just kind of like people like true crime, sometimes to an unhealthy level, but they don't, I don't know. I'm like, there's stuff I like in this movie. And then I feel, and it's like it's an interesting Sydney movie about Sydney's journey and Sydney's ongoing trauma. I wanted like more from the relationships, but I felt like it was missing that like meta satirizing element that is usually like intrinsic to the Scream movies.
You know what it was missing?
What?
Tell me, girl. Well,
dude,
it did have him there for 1 second with his hair like this.
With his emo fucking hair.
Why was his hair like that, girl?
I still stand by the fact that I hated that they killed him off.
I know.
The last movie. I thought that was
It was Scream 5. We didn't even have him in 6. It was literally the 5th one. I know because I literally just watched him die because I watched Scream 5 to make myself feel better.
Can I tell you that I do not remember the plots of either of them?
I liked
you
them.
You should give him another.
I
probably will, but I just like don't.
Hardcore Scream.
Yeah, like we're not doing this. So my neighbor has never seen any of the Scream movies before, and I said that's unacceptable. So we're gonna start having like a weekly Scream like movie night.
Okay.
So I'm gonna rewatch them, but like I am just not.
Well, they don't have the same.
Care, quite
they
frankly,
don't have
about 5 and 6.
You didn't watch them when you were a kid, you know what I mean? Like I feel like there's barely I barely ever care about something as much as I cared about things in high school now as an adult. Like you have more feeling than
4 as a standalone all the time.
Well, that was 2011. We were still children.
I was
2011.
an adult. I was out of the club.
To not care about 5 and 6. It's not.
I was shaking ass in the club in 2011.
No, it's fine. No, I agree. No, I'm just saying. I'm like I don't care about them as I don't care about them as much either because they don't have that same like.
They haven't lived in your Scream lexicon for 20 years.
Exactly. But there were just things about them that I really like.
Looking back, I hate the Billy Loomis like
I love it.
child and he's there and she's like, am I going crazy? Like thinking back about that, I fucking hate that actually.
I kind of
I hated it at the time.
I wanted them to solve crimes.
I hated it at the time too. If we go back to the tapes, I'm pretty sure I was a hater of that, but I still liked the movie because there was so much more than like the movie wasn't just that all the time. If it was just that all the time, oh my god. Would have fucking hated that so much.
6
but like
had that only for 1 second. Yeah.
But like there was just so much other action going on. But like I also think that I'm not even totally super mad about like the large plot points of this movie in Scream 7. I like did I roll my eyes that it was deep fakes? I did. And that is AI. I did. I have the thing that Sydney has where when there's phones in something too much, she gets angry. I have that with AI. I don't want to fucking hear about it. But like, what are you gonna do? That's just what the reality of the world is. So I get that. I wouldn't have hated it so much. I just don't think that this film was deftly executed. Like from a writing standpoint and visually, I feel like a lot of things looked really hokey to me. And then I just don't think that like I come to the Scream movies because they've got these like smart, quick dialogue. Like Mindy's character really brought that sort of fun energy into the 5 and 6. Like she was bringing that Randy energy. Also, like the opening scene with Jenna Ortega and all that fucking hilarious shit where they talking about elevated horror and all that. Like I just watched the beginning of 5 just to remind myself like what was it like? Like what am I so mad that wasn't there? And there's just like the banter and the conversations between the characters was really interesting, engaging. And I just think like these new characters that they brought in, like they just didn't develop them at all. So I didn't give a literal shit or fuck about any of them because they gave them like no screen time to like develop in any way except for like when they're on stage performing for the play. But like that doesn't give you that much time, and then they have maybe 13 seconds in the tavern or whatever. Like I just think if they could have fleshed this out in different ways, it could have worked. Like I see what they were trying to do, like the deep fakes things aside, like this was the commentary part they were trying to make during this movie is sort of a commentary, yes, on true crime, like you were saying, and how like true crime kind of, we talk about this on the pod sometimes, is so toxic these days because it's like it has a true crime podcast, and like everybody's diving into these like personal stories where people are dead and like fucking with the families, and it's like taking some of the morality out of true crime. So like we see that here with the weird
journalism a lot of
exactly
the time. It doesn't even rise to the level of journalism.
Exactly. So like we get a little bit of taste of that here with Weird Guy, how he keeps like talking to Sydney about her fucking trauma and like not thinking about how she's a person who's watched like 12 people die, probably more than that. Sorry, like a lot more people than that.
So many people.
So like 40 people die. I don't have a death count right now. So there's that, and then also like I think with the ending, and we'll talk about that more later. Like they're trying to talk about like parasocial relationships and stuff like that, but I just don't think it was like deftly done. Like it wasn't satisfying because it just wasn't fleshed out enough throughout. Like things felt so fucking random. I don't know.
Yeah. I think my big problem with Scream 7 is the Hollywood machine of it all and the studio's determination to have a film at any cost. And I think that is a little frustrating. Not that it's exactly the same, but obviously Scream 4 was supposed to be the beginning of a new trilogy, and then Wes Craven died. And so they went, okay, we no longer can make the movies that we were planning to make in the same ways, and they just like left it alone. And you
it also didn't do that well, right?
I think maybe initially, yeah, it didn't like. I think it. Yeah. I mean, people love it.
It was a weird time for horror. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, keep going. Sorry.
But yeah, I mean, I think they kind of just like moved on. You know what I mean? There are other movies that can be made. There are lots of stories that can be told. And in the wake of Melissa Barrera's firing, it became really clear that they were like, we're gonna have a movie no matter what, and on roughly speaking the same timeline no matter what. And I think this movie suffered for that, because if they had taken a step back to breathe, I think they could have come back with like the same basic concepts here. Kevin Williamson, Neve Campbell, Sydney's story, teenage daughter, exploring her daughter reaching the same age that she was. But so much of it feels so like contrived to me that they were like, okay, that is an interesting inflection point. Sydney having a teenage daughter who is the same age that she was. But obviously if Sydney had a teenage daughter, obviously she wasn't married, didn't have a kid in Scream 4. It's like she must have turned around 1 second later and immediately married Mark Evans, and settled down and popped out a kid. And why are
retcon.
Mindy and Chad here? Oh, they're Gail's hot interns. Like, that's funny. I laughed at that line, but it doesn't necessarily like make sense to me for their character journeys why they're doing this, other than it's like, well, we have to have them in the movie, and now that we're following Sydney and Sydney's moved away, it's like, how are we getting them in here? They took so many things and shoved them together so that we could have a movie now that has like some elements of through lines from the franchise as a whole. And I think if they had given it a little more time or a little more thought, they could have nailed down those elements in a much more successful, cohesive way. But also, maybe I just did not connect with Joel McHale as her husband, because
it's hard for me to connect with Joel McHale.
That was a jump scare.
Who's that man?
For me, I was like, that's not McDreamy.
I know.
Apparently Patrick Dempsey like wanted to come back, but it was a scheduling issue, and then there were the fires in LA, and he had a house in Malibu, I think, and so it's like it just didn't end up working out. But to me, it's like, okay, then why can't Sydney's husband be on the trip with their two younger kids, only one of whom we see? Like, it's so, they established so many things. She's single and married in 4. In 5, she has kids young enough to be in a stroller. Now she has a teenager. It's just like one of those things where they just decided what would be an interesting movie, and they went, we'll make it work at the sacrifice of like,
yeah,
logical
and
storytelling.
I'm not even mad that they did a retcon, because I watch the Fast and Furious movies, and you have to accept a lot, you know what I mean? Like, okay, that guy's alive, we saw him die for sure. No, he's alive. Okay, whatever you say, Vin Diesel, you know what I mean? So like, okay, there's an older daughter who wasn't there in the stroller scene in 5. Okay. That's fine. That's okay. Sure. Okay, whatever. Because I do like that idea of the mother-daughter thing. And I love that her name is Tatum. I fucking love that. I think that's great. Like that. I think it's so great. I just think that it's just the dialogue was so weird in this movie. And honestly, I know you said it is weird that we got Mindy and, oh God, what's his name?
Chad.
He's so not a Chad. I'm so sorry. Chad and Mindy, aka Mason Gooding and Jasmine Savoy.
Chad,
okay, I don't want to get into. I don't want to get into this. We're not getting no mogging. Sydney tried to explain this to me after the episode a couple days ago, and I didn't understand anything that was happening. It was the most like, I was like, "Is this a joke?" Like, so we can't.
Sometimes I hate myself for being like online.
So online.
But you know, like, one of us has to do it, unfortunately, and it is the sword that I fall on.
You are on parts of the internet that I've never even thought could
There's
possibly
so much internet
exist.
out there.
Here's
That's
the
what's
thing.
really crazy
You're
about
seeing
it.
So much internet.
that are beyond my comprehension.
Like, I'm on so much of the internet, and yet I'm only on like, I've just got a toe in the internet. I cannot imagine what's out there.
I don't want to go all the way.
Sydney and I are both on there so much, and we have some overlap, but some parts of the world she's in are not the world that I'm in.
And here's the thing too, unfortunately the internet has taken me to places that I wouldn't go with a gun, but yet I'm here because I have a gun. So let's go.
You bravely persist. Yeah.
I'm super out of the loop because I deleted
traveler,
Instagram for almost
say.
a whole week. So big week for Moni. Deleted it for almost a whole week. But anyway, okay, back to
Mindy and
Chad and Mindy. Mason Gooding, my sweet king, and Jasmine Savoy Brown, my wife, I think is what I referred to her as 2 episodes ago, but I couldn't remember her name. Anyway, you
know
can
her,
try them.
We don't need to name her. My wife.
Let's go together. You should just know who my wife is, and so should I. But we haven't used names in so long because we've been spouses for years.
Just go, hey, babe.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, her name's Babe. I don't know her real
Yeah,
name anymore.
you understand this. But what I was trying to say, and also now to make a reference to another episode that I don't know what I actually said, you could pry them in this movie with my cold dead hands.
Oh yeah.
That shit,
Yeah, when we dig up your grave
we
and
need them in this
rigor
movie
mortis
because that's
hands.
the only fucking funny thing that happens in this whole movie is their characters. They're like the only comic relief because we don't have Dewey anymore.
A little bit Gail is funny sometimes.
A little bit Gail is funny sometimes, but in her particular Gail way, you know. We need like more silly comic relief. We used to have Randy, we used to have Dewey, we used to have all these different characters, and they're all fucking dead now. So we just have, you know, Chad and Mindy, and I really, really enjoyed their parts of it because especially when they came in too, I was like, oh look, these characters that were developed in other movies that now I just love. But even then, I thought it was really interesting some of the choices that they made for them, their characters, just like you were saying, Chelsea, like, oh, why are they the hot interns for Gail? I didn't hate that, but also I'm like, why is Mindy like cutthroat trying to like steal Gail's thunder now? Like,
That
is
seems
that
so accurate for her to me. I could just
okay?
easily see like her and Gail, like she's like, fuck Gail, like I want this and Gail. Know what I mean? Like I feel like they have like it's like they're undercutting, but it's also like fun.
I can see them having an antagonistic relationship. That I totally makes sense to me, but like Mindy like fiending for the spotlight in a similar way to the way Gail has for the last 5 millennia that this franchise has been going on didn't feel as right to me because she was such a movie buff before. So this is a big pivot. I mean, she still is, but this feels like a pivot.
Yeah, but now she's a 3-time Ghostface survivor.
So true. Yeah, I
Between
think
sure.
that is part of the thing is like they'll say one thing and then be like, that's enough establishing whatever. Because they have like one conversation where Chad and Mindy are saying like, oh, Gail's whole medium is like kind of out of date. We're more about content, don't say content. So they're kind of like presenting themselves as existing in this online younger generation space, but then we don't see them doing that at any point in the movie. We only see them existing in like Gail's traditional reporting medium and like fighting for that position. And it's like, why are you even fighting for that if you think that's like old and outdated and Gail has a fading career, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's like they said something to be like, we're young and hip, and then they just like don't show it at all. And I think that that was kind of an overarching issue is that like there are things that exist on the page and in the lines of dialogue, but you don't, it doesn't necessarily like feel like it lives in the movie. Like here's her husband, don't you see that they love each other because they're talking about how they said they were age 17 when they first started talking about sex, and that's enough establishing a relationship. And like here's her I don't know, it's just one of those things where it didn't feel to me like there are 20 years of history in this relationship. I know she's being a cuddle bug right now. It didn't feel like there were 20 years of history in this relationship. It didn't feel like there is like 15 years of being her mom, who is Sydney Prescott, when it comes to Tatum. Like these all seem like very new conversations, and I think you can get away with some of that because there are things that a 10-year-old is not going to know to ask about, and then there are things that a 17-year-old is going to be aware of. But it just was one of those things, and maybe again, like with 5 and 6 for Sydney, maybe it'll grow in time to be a rich part of the larger Scream tapestry or whatever. But to me, I didn't feel like none of the relationships connected for me. And I walked away from the movie being like, I don't know, like am I just not feeling things? But it's like I watched The Pit earlier that night and I cried, and I watched Bridgerton over the weekend and I cried. And so it's like I am feeling things from media, but none of this, like, I was entertained, but it didn't like make me feel things that the way Scream has in the past.
It felt, the characters just felt very shallow. Not like they are shallow people, like Shallow Hal. They're shallow as in like they didn't write any depth into them. And like I just was so frustrated. Like all the friends, I know nothing about any of them except for Weird Guy. Like, oh, and Ben
boyfriend was
trying to go to
science.
Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah.
Like,
okay, but I will say, boyfriend deserved it because two blondes should not be allowed to be in a couple together.
What are you guys doing? Get away from each
One
other.
of them must be eliminated.
okay, also,
hair.
Chad fucking called it so hard when he's like, oh, it seems like you got like a little brains and brawn going. And Ben's like, yeah, you know, like I just like to feed my body and my mind. And Chad was like, that's an insane thing to say out loud. Or something like that.
That was
and
when he was mogging on the other.
Okay. I feel like he looks like one of those guys. He looks like he's
a Chad,
except for
he's looks maxing.
He looks like he's looks maxing. He's got like. He looked like a drawing of a man, like someone.
Yes, that looks
like a cartoon man. Like it was crazy. No shade to that guy.
The looks of it all.
I don't like his looks.
He's really hot. Like objectively, it's just like very much not my type. It's just not my type. Yeah.
I wonder
and
what his
also,
hair is
I
naturally.
think that he actually is a brunette. He is. He dyed his hair blonde for this.
Okay.
I'm looking at his IMDb right now.
Mistake.
He looks good with brown hair. Okay.
Yeah.
He looks great.
Okay. I want to talk about the opening with the boyfriend, which again, if the theme of the movie is nostalgia, I see what purpose it's serving to so directly mirror the opening of Scream with Sydney and Billy in her bedroom.
Oh.
But the thing is that is an absolutely insane thing for Ben, the character, to choose to do.
I agree.
It doesn't make any sense at all, other than to be nostalgic and have a parallel. And
well, it was there clearly to show that there's conflict between mother and daughter.
Yeah, I get that, but it's just
like she's literally just like, you're a fucking hypocrite. We all know that your boyfriend, like, you climbed in your window famously, and then she was like, he wanted to murder me, but like, if you're a teenager, like, you don't care. No, like, that's not what you're thinking of.
I don't agree.
I disagree too.
As a teenager, that would not have fazed me at all.
I was a different teen than you.
Okay, here's what I think. I think if they had just watched the Stab movies together and they had some kind of existing rapport about it where they were like, isn't that wild or whatever, and then this is sort of a callback to something they've talked about, then you can contextualize that more. That being said, if he just is like, I don't know that he really was just watching the Stab movie. I think that's just the dialogue that Billy says he was just watching whatever at home. So he's copying it.
I was watching The Exorcist.
Yeah, The Exorcist.
Which honestly is so romantic.
We don't have time to get into this. But for him to be like, I'm crawling into your window and I'm pretending to be Billy Loomis, who not only tried to kill your mom, but actually did kill your grandmother, successfully killed your grandmother, which nobody's talking about. I'm pretending to be the guy who killed your grandmother and then was a sex pest to your mom for another full year after that until he finally got laid, and then he tried to kill her too. And this is the way I'm opening a potential makeout session. And then for Tatum to just be like, we all know that your boyfriend crawled into your bedroom window. It's like, yes, and if you know that, you also know the circumstances of it. So you should know that is the last possible thing that's going to help your case right now. If you're trying to be like, we were just being silly, goofing around. What I think they should have done is we should have seen that scene exactly as it plays out, but then as they're like making out on the bed or whatever, instead of being interrupted by a knock at the door like they were in Scream 1 with Sydney's dad, it should be like Sydney wakes up from, this is like her nightmare scenario, is that like her daughter is in a similar relationship that she was. The same thing is happening with her daughter. It like haunts her, but she like wakes up, she shakes off the day. Her husband like comforts her in the morning. We see they have an established relationship where they trust each other. He makes her feel safe. He's part of like her protection. And they have something shared between them beyond like, oh yeah, we both did sex when we were teens. Isn't that kooky crazy? And
Remember
like
sex.
right. And so it's like that is the audience's first introduction to the boyfriend, but it's also not a real introduction to his character. It's just like the nightmare version. And then we actually meet him, and it's like, is he what Sydney fears that he is? Is he just a normal teenager who wants to have sex with his girlfriend? Like, I just think that for that to be a real thing that he did is bonkers and completely insane, inappropriate.
It's bonkers to me as well, and it's also just like, for me, I get okay, what, and I'm not trying to sound mean, like, what is the line between nostalgia and laziness, where they're like just running back the exact same scene again? Like, okay, cool. I don't know, like, I thought that was so weird. I like, first time I watched it, I didn't think about it quite as much because like we just started the movie and like I'm like, okay, Timmy Tatro's eye just went sideways, and that's that. But like watching it a second time, I was just like, why is it we're just doing the literal exact same thing again? And I like, again, watching the beginning of Scream 5, they like ran it back with the Drew Barrymore kill and Jenna Ortega's opening scene. There's a lot of parallels there in the kitchen with the knife play and stuff like that. But like the dialogue is completely different. Like it's
and also
that
she
brought
survives,
in new
so that's like the
information.
big subversion.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like there's no subversion, and then it's like the same thing, like, oh, we're worried about the boyfriend. And yes, of course we're always going to be worried about the boyfriend because we've lived in this franchise for 7 movies. So like you have to be worried about the boyfriend, but it just felt like,
what was that scene trying to accomplish other than being nostalgic?
Yeah, it was just, that's the thing. Like that's why the nostalgia didn't get me. Like I feel like in past movies they've done nostalgia and then go and they tweak it a little bit and it's new. This was just like, I'll be right back. Like it's just like all the just saying the lines again and again. And also this is a non sequitur, but something that really bothered me. I was like, when am I laughing in this movie? And I realized I was laughing about the same thing every time I laughed. They use like the same joke whenever they wanted you to like laugh in this movie. They just had one of the characters be like, "Fuck." No joke. No joke. Like half the jokes in this movie are just a character being like, "What the fuck? Fuck. Fuck. Fuck." They like use all their R words, all their R words, not
There
the
are
R word. They didn't use the R word. They used all of the F words they could use with the R rating. That's what I was trying to say. They did not use the R word. They did a lot of things I didn't like, but they did not use the R word. I'm so sorry. No F slur either, okay? So that's good.
How can this be a movie? We'll never be able to cover it in F slur November ever again.
Oh my god, sorry, I totally derailed myself. But I was just like, so many of the punchlines are just saying fuck. And I was like, okay, that's so fun. I laughed. Like I laughed the first time. The second time around, I was like, there is just, that was like another thing that bothered me with the writing, is like the same joke 12 times, like the same Sydney, you weren't in New York joke like 12 different times. Like it just felt repetitive, and it was just like, yes, she wasn't in New York. Some of the times they needed to bring it up, like between her and Gail chitty chatting, like that I think was important to talk about. And Gail was also like, I'm glad you weren't there because it was fucked up. But then like showing how Gail was injured from that, I thought that was an interesting scene. I thought that was good, but it just, parts of this felt lazy to me.
I will say for this movie, other than the cold open not meaningfully connecting to me with the killer and the killer's motivations, I did really like the cold open.
I loved the cold open.
I thought that was an interesting way to dialogue with the true crime theme that they're kind of investigating to a degree.
Good point.
Is
and
like
the nostalgia because we're back at Stu's.
Yeah, we're back at Stu's house. So it's nostalgic. We're looking around at all of the locations that we've seen. Yeah, that we've seen
different
before in 1 and in 5, and here's where everybody died. And it's also like, you know, the obsession that people, you want to go to a real murder house where people were really murdered, and you're listening to a podcast about true crime as you're driving up, and it's all like, we don't know, conspiracy theory about what's going on.
Stu
still
could
blah,
still
blah, blah.
be alive.
Yeah.
It was, which was like a fun little reference to be like, he was spotted at a fraternity party at Windsor College that one semester right before the attack.
Yeah.
Has a cameo. Matthew Lillard has a cameo in the party scene.
And it felt like it was fun to see them back in the house, and you have like your enthusiast, and then you also have your sort of like cynic a little bit, and how that parses together, and how the way you can use like a one scare on one person that wouldn't maybe hit the same on the other person. And they got me with some of the jumps there, and like Ghostface coming out of the darkness, and
that was great.
Cool. And I fucking loved the motion sensor Ghostface thing. I thought that was really smart. I thought that was a really smart scare, because you hear that pump, like the clunking sound, and you're like, oh, like Jimmy Tatro's already dead. I don't know, that I didn't expect. Well, not like I didn't expect it, but the way that it played out was very good and very spooky.
And it was just like fun. They did some fun stuff with it. When she got the phone call and she's like, "Did you just call me a bitch?" Because she thinks she's talking to her boyfriend.
So funny.
Like, I loved that. I wanted more of that. The kills in that scene were good. But again,
I liked his eye going sideways.
Oh yeah, his eye going sideways. Because I feel like the big like kills in this one, I don't remember if like 1 and 2 were necessarily as like realistic gore as 5 and 6 were, because that's just not necessarily what I'm interested in the franchise for.
Scream 1? The OG
I remember
Scream?
Steve's like organs come out, that for sure. But it's not as like visceral close up as like when the knife goes into 13 Reasons Why Clay's neck in 5. Wes. Judy Hopps is not, her name's not Judy Hopps.
Judy Hopps.
Judy something. She's a cop just like Judy Hopps.
Judy Hopps.
She loves Broadway. That's what I remember about her.
Crazy.
It's basically the same character. Let's be realistic.
Between with Monica's R word and Chelsea's Judy Hopps.
He's basically Judy Hopps. I stand by it. Anyway, like I remember when he gets stabbed in the neck in 5, like that felt like very like, oh, I was like watching between my hands. I remember being in the theater. It was like invigorating because it was like so gross and visceral. And I think you got that with the knife through Jimmy Tatro's head. But I didn't really get that with any of the other kills in this movie, even the like beer tap one, which I think was kind of supposed to be a standout moment, and it was like creative and it looked okay, but it also looked like very cartoony to me.
I loved McKenna Grace and her like flying around and her getting her guts that dropped on the thing. That was sick.
I just didn't care that much
for
her. I don't know.
I'm watching Wes die right now. Sorry.
I know, that's what I'm saying, girl.
I was watching this movie up until Dewey's death, like right before this, but I was cutting a cucumber during Wes's death, so I didn't actually look at it, so I forgot what happened, and you said that, and I was like, let me rewind. It's so nasty.
Yeah, it's really nasty. But McKenna Grace, we just didn't get enough of her and her character for me to care at all. It's like, we see Tatum meet up with her friends, and for 1 second she's like, "Oh, I wish I could connect with my mom," and they're like, "That sucks. Your mom deserves to be in a mental institution if she wants to be, because she's been through crazy shit in her life. Anyway, I'm having a party at my house tonight. Should we talk about the party?" It's like they transition so quickly when we could have had like a longer scene really establishing like what these friends are to each other than
yes, this is what I was gonna say earlier before we pivoted to talking about boyfriend. Like,
circle around.
McKenna, I knew it would come back. McKenna Grace, like, is the only one that I felt like I cared about a little bit, and that's just because it was McKenna Grace. Like, that's the only reason, because she's like a well-known actress, you know? That's, I think, the other issue. Like, and this could be a generational thing, which, oh God, I'm gonna make myself feel like an old person. Here we go. Like with Scream 5, that was only 3 years ago, but they chose this whole new cast of characters. I didn't know who all of them were, obviously. Like, I didn't know my wife then. We had just met. And I didn't know Mason Gooding before that. But like those two characters were written with crazy personalities. So like you feel those characters. But like I don't know who any of these people are that like these new kids are in this movie. I don't recognize them from anything except for Celeste O'Connor. She plays Chloe.
They use they them pronouns.
Oh, sorry. Fuck. They were Chloe. They were also Nyla in Freaky.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in Ghostbusters Afterlife. And they were in Madame Web. Madame Web. Maddie and Madame Web. So
Tuesday's favorite movie, Madame
Web. Exactly. So like they are recognizable, but like Asa German, who plays Weird Boy, aka Lucas, like he's just been in he's been 2 episodes of The Boys, and he is in Gen V, which I haven't watched, but I've actually really been wanting to watch. Which is
for a hot second, I was like, he was in The Boy.
That's what I thought Monica was saying at first too.
A star.
Yeah, and like Sam Reckner plays Ben, the boyfriend. He's been in just a handful of things. None of them are. Well, he was in The Fabelmans, and I didn't see The Fabelmans, and everybody else saw The Fabelmans, but I did not.
I did not. Can't relate.
Oh yeah, and Heartbreak High, which I haven't watched either.
Yeah,
I think it's very gay.
Am I missing one of
the
the
only
friends?
thing I know about it.
I love that. I love gay things. That's great. But it's just this cast of characters. Like I feel like for Scream 5, maybe they didn't like develop Wes that much. Okay, they didn't. They probably didn't. But you get a little bit more because you get his relationship with his mommy and their cutie, like
Judy Hopps,
mom, Judy Hopps.
And I think he
Judy
liked not Tatum.
No, he was
Jenna Ortega's character, Tara.
That was his girlfriend. They were boyfriend girlfriend.
What?
I think so.
I think he just liked her.
He's the one who called to tell Sam that this all happened, so I thought he was the boyfriend. I just watched it, but maybe I just didn't. They were very close. Anyway, but yeah, I think the part of the issue is that like they really did get like some fresh actors for this, with like I guess Celeste notwithstanding, because they've been doing some horror movies for a minute now. But like I think that was a hard entry point because I didn't know who any of these people were, and then they didn't get me to know who any of those people were. So like if I cared about them just because just because I love 13 Reasons Why, that already got me through the door with Wes. Okay, like I loved that show. I'm sorry, it's problematic. I loved it. I read it, tried. I loved it. I never finished it, but I love the first season. And but like I didn't have that entry point literally at all, and like okay, that would have been fine if you made me care about any of these people. Oh, you know who I forgot? The fucking star, Isabel May. That's the other person who I didn't look up. Oopsie, sorry. That says a lot too. They've been around for a while, but I didn't know who she was either. I had never like seen Yellowstone, so I'm not familiar with her 1 episode on Yellowstone or 1923, her 15 episodes on 1923. I don't know that. So like there's just hard to get into It's hard. It was hard to like. I didn't already care about these characters, and then like the movie's supposed to make you care, like by the writing and stuff. And they just like there was nothing. There was literally they never talk. They never talk. No one talks to anyone. And then they cut McKenna Grace in half. She was very cunty and funny, and I loved her thing being like, "I'm not actually a diva. I'm just pretending to be one." And then turns to the
Except for
teacher and is
you.
like, "But that's not true for you. You need to still be scared of me."
Mhm.
Like I loved her death. I thought it was really funny, but it was also really fucking annoying because I was like, there is no school in the universe that has that sort of budget for the theater department unless it's fucking Juilliard. Okay. Like nobody has suspending. I don't even know what that's called. Like a rope system to fly a girl through the air. Like that was preposterous to me. And also, it was a real waste of what's that guy's name? Timothy Simmons or something like that.
Oh, Jonah from Veep, yeah.
Yeah, Jonah from Veep, and he's also in Kristen Bell
Nobody wants
show.
this.
Nobody wants this. Yeah. Like I feel like that was a waste of his character. But they really
Yeah,
did
I
try
feel
for
like he
1 second
was.
to make you think he was the killer. Just one time for 1 second.
Yeah, I wonder if he had a additional scene that got cut, or if it
I
really was
bet.
just that one moment of red herring where he's in the crowd outside of Sydney's house. But yeah, I mean, I think I agree. They didn't establish the relationships enough or the characters enough on their own for you to be like sad when McKenna Grace died. It just felt so early in the movie.
Yes. They
And
didn't
maybe
have
that's because the cold open is so separate from the rest of the characters, and so it's like they're not like feeling the effects of a recent murder in their area or a recent attack in their area. um it was kind of the same thing in Scream 6, where the cold open was not related at all to the main characters. It was just related to the killers. But I did think that like Ghostface on Ghostface Crime was delicious, and that movie was so about the Stab franchise that it felt like
I forgot about
thematic the
that
way it fit
open.
into the larger story there.
Mm-hmm.
Um in
And
this
this
one it's
could
like
have.
that's a great cold open for the movie and then not for the characters meaningfully. Other than they're like, there
Yeah.
was a murder in Woodsboro, but my Sydney senses were tingling, so I came here instead of that.
And
And it's like,
also
okay, we'll just move on.
Scream 6, like, there's a couple of other people that pop up that are new, but like, we have like largely the same cast, so we don't have to re-establish a whole new group of people from
Yeah,
scratch in the same way.
but you had like the
Um,
weird guy and the girlfriend, and it was like, okay, those are easy
yeah.
fodder.
Well, also, there is a lot of like, you're right, like, similar to what you're just saying, like, there wasn't something that brings all the characters together because they don't care about the person who's been killed in the opening. Like, what I was gonna say is that Scream 1 and Scream 5, they both have this moment in the beginning where all the kids are together on tables at the front of the school and they are all chitty chatting and like showing what their banter is together as a group. And we don't get that here. Like we have the theater scene happening, but it's so focused on McKenna Grace flying through the sky and
McKenna
the
Grace sings.
McKenna Grace singing. This
What can't
also
McKenna Grace do?
McKenna Grace launching her music career, if she has not already, with this movie because she's singing in it. And then I don't know if you guys stayed to the end of the credits, but the last song they play with the credits is McKenna Grace singing like this like crazy song.
I think she already has a music career that she's like tried to launch.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm not super familiar with her outside of the like 5 horror movies I've seen her in the last like 5 days. I feel like she's been in so many things. Um but yeah, they just needed a little bit more time spent there and we didn't get that. But I feel like we should now pivot to talking about Matthew Lillard.
I have one more thing I want to say about the
Okay.
friend group. Just because I have, the more that I sit with it, the more I'm like, I wish they had just waited. Not that they were going to come to my house and consult me and be like, Chelsea, help us beef up the script. How would you do it different instead? But I'm like, well, I have ideas, so they should have done that. They should have called me.
I know they should have. I've been telling them that, but they don't listen to me.
Because I feel like there are organic ways where they could have built out these characters and their identities and their roles to each other in ways that they just like didn't it didn't occur to them, maybe. I don't know. But it's like when we first see Tatum leaving the house the next morning wearing the jacket from Scream 2, and she has this like fight about it with her mom, where her mom is like, that I haven't seen that since college. And it's like, okay, so can I wear it? Can I not wear it? And they have a heart-to-heart moment where Tatum is trying to connect and trying to be like, tell me about it, if this is like this sore of a subject this many years later. Like, let me in. Like, she wants to have a relationship with her mom. This is what I'm saying, is like there's good bones here in many ways. And then it just gets like dropped and ignored. It's like, well, you already established that. It's like, but is this like the ongoing emotional journey of this character or not? Because she mentions it to her friends 1 second later, and like I said before, they just move on to party. But it could have been that they're talking about it and it's like, oh, well, I've seen all of the movies, blah blah blah. That would have been a good moment for Chloe, Celeste O'Connor's character, to be like, well, I know, like, if you want to know about these things, obviously the stab movies are different, but like, I know creepy guy, what's his actual name? Lucas. That's her crush, you know what I mean? She wants to invite him to party, maybe. That could have been a good moment to be like, well, I know Lucas like has your mom's book and I know he's read it. I'm sure he would like let you borrow it, and that's a way to like kind of bring him in a way that humanizes him a little more before we meet him. And then it's like, he's not creepy. They could have said he's just intense, and said they're like, he's creepy and I like it. And I don't know, I just feel like there could have been moments where they like sat with that a little more, and just like what they give to each other. Here's the comfort that I offer you. Here's the understanding and the perspective as I can offer somebody who's like outside of that. Again, they're all still teenagers, so I get being like, but they want to have party. But
well, let them go to the fucking party and talk to each other. I would have loved for the party to have happened. Maybe they would have spoken to each other and I could have gotten to know them better. Or maybe they could have like what you were just saying. I love the idea of them being like, of her not knowing anything about her mom's shit because her mom won't say anything. But like, okay, well, let's watch the stab movies and you can get an idea or something like that.
Or even just a line of dialogue where she's like, I don't want to watch the stab movies. I don't want to read my mom's book. I want my mom to tell me about it herself so that we can be like relationship building. I don't want to be hearing about it secondhand. And I don't want everyone on earth to know these things that I'm not allowed to know. And
I want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah. Neve instead Campbell. Of it was like 1 second of McKenna Grace being like, that's crazy all that shit happened to your mom. Anyway, I'm wearing a crop top and a mini skirt and I'm having a party later and I'm mean and I'm hot. And it just felt very like I can project a lot more onto that character. And I think that there is potential gay stuff to be projected onto her and Tatum's relationship. But it felt very like Scream wanted to kind of disrupt the archetypes that are inherent in horror movies over history, and this one felt like she was really reduced again to being like hot sexy girl who dies first.
Yeah.
No, it's actually the second death, because we have Aaron.
That's true, but he doesn't even die on screen.
I know.
He just falls down and goes boom. Yeah, it's disappointing. Also, okay, so can we talk about Stu now?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I am not the writer of the pod like Chelsea, so maybe she has ideas of how to do it better. I can't tell you how to do it better, but I know that going into this movie, we all kind of had, especially if you watch our trailer reaction, we had this like idea where it was like a not a secret. It was like a secret that what's it called? Like a public secret. There's like a turn of phrase. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like where something like everybody knows that something is gonna happen, something is true, but we don't talk about it. There's a phrase for it, and if you know it, DM me and help me out. 20 days from now, let me know. But anyway, it was like open secret.
Like
maybe that's what
secret.
it is. Thank you. We got there. An open secret. Like, okay, we all knew Matthew Lillard's coming back. We knew Stu Macher's coming back. There for years in this franchise, people have been like, did Stu actually die? The TV fell on his head.
They built it up in 5 and 6. Yeah.
Yeah, they built it up in 5 and 6. Like, and finally it was announced that Matthew Lillard was coming back for this. And so, like, we did the trailer reaction a couple weeks ago for the most recent episode, or the most recent one. And there's the most recent trailer, the final trailer. There's literally a clip where you can hear Matthew Lillard's voice saying something Ghostfacey. You don't see him, but you literally hear his voice. So you're like, okay. And so I guess they're kind of like baking on the fact that everyone was like, okay, well, the killer's going to be Stu in this one. And so they're like trying to be like, oh, but the gotcha is that it's not. I was just hoping that it would be him somehow, and they would just find an interesting way to do it. And I believed that it could be possible to find an interesting way to do it where it would still be shocking in some regard. Like, the world is our oyster. We could do anything here. But instead, like, it wasn't him, and it was this deep fake AI thing. And like, some pros I will say for me, I think that Matthew did a great job. I think he did a great job of like being that same character and psycho, and the scars looked cool and I liked that. But I just hate, like, half the reason why I hate this deep fake thing so much is I just hated the way that it fucking looked on the phone. I thought it looked so fucking bad. I thought it looked awful. And if you disagreed, then I'm happy for you. But I was taken out of it immediately the second they did the FaceTime, because his face was so close up. It looked so weird. It looked like, I don't know how we have not been able to like figure out how to render phones in movies. Like 90% of the time I feel like it looks like shit, but some people get it right. So I don't understand why we couldn't do that here. And so that one was really close up, and that was weird. And I also just like just got taken out of my sails the second that was introduced, because I just thought,
as soon as they show him, you're like, well, it's not that then.
As soon as they showed him, I was just like, what the fuck? And I was like, okay. And like the dialogue there was like really heavy-handed too, and so I was like, this feels really cheesy to me. And then like the rest of them, every time they showed Stu, like, who was holding the phone? Was it on a tripod? Like, he was so far away. It looked so weird. And then he just kept going like this, and this is for the YouTube crowd. Like, he would like take his hand and like really hit the button, really hang up the button on the phone, and like,
I'm coming in.
He's like, and now I'm gonna go kill her in the theater, like, pachow, and hangs it up, and it's just like, who holds it like that? Who does that? Like, they did some stuff that they thought would look cunty throughout this movie to make it more dramatic, and it actually just didn't make sense, and it made me so angry. There's also a part at the very end where you're supposed to like reveal when the second killer or third killer, I guess, comes out, and the gate opens on its own, and the last killer that we don't know who it is way far back, nowhere near the gate, and the gate pops open on its own, and then they cuntily walk up through the gate. And I'm like, who opened the gate? Did you rig that just for this moment? Like, they just did weird visual things like that where I'm just like, why? Why is it like this? They like tried to make it more like visually dramatic and like stylized at some points, but like the whole thing about Ghostface that I know we've all said that we love this, is that it's fucking idiots in there 99% of the time. Like, yeah, they're doing smart things with the kills, but like they're falling down, they're tripping, it's like a human person. It's not Michael Myers. So like, I don't know, they're just there's just some stylistic choices like that like really took me out of it and didn't feel true to some of the like core values that I loved so much about it. But I mean, I guess the deepfake thing isn't a terrible idea. It really fucking pissed me off. I don't know. Someone who liked it talk. Did Sydney, say words. What did you like about it? I want to hear about it. I want to feel better.
Here's the thing. I thought it was deepfakes are so deeply disturbing. Like deepfakes in its own are horror, quite frankly. Like
seriously,
in its own right. But it's not
Yeah.
like it's real world horror, not like horror movie scary slasher I'm gonna die thing. It's like existential dread. This is
Yeah.
actually happening horror.
Our world is so fucked. Yeah.
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 But like as much as I don't like deepfakes in real life, and also like again, like the tech, like all the texting and stuff, and like the use of phones, again, always an ick. I did think that if you were going to bring back Stu, who is clearly dead and the franchise wants him dead, this was like the best way to do it, and very timely.
I could see that. There's a way I just spit everywhere. I got so excited I spit my whole screen.
He was so passionate.
I feel like there's a way that they could have done this where I wouldn't be this angry about it. Like there could be, I don't know, like Sydney and Gail did seem very affected and freaked out by it, but like I don't know, just the way that it looked like really.
I wanted Sydney and Gail digging up the grave of Stu Macher to body check.
I would have loved that.
That would have been sick. Although I mean, I don't know the rate of decay for bodies, especially ones that have been properly embalmed or whatever. I don't know what they would find in there.
I don't think it would be there, but like if there was a body in the grave, I'd be like, okay.
What if it's his signature necklace that he always wears? It's still here.
No. It's his skeleton, and that somehow the only thing that was preserved is his tongue.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the deep fake videos are complicated because I think it can make sense in universe that they look weird in the way that they do because it's a computer generated video in universe, and B, it's not a computer generated video based on someone's real likeness. It's like an aged up computer generated version of what Stu used to look like, plus whatever backstory they've imagined for him where he survived, but he has all of these cuts on his face and the scars, blah blah blah. So it's like it makes sense in universe that it looks the way that it does, but I agree, as soon as they're using Stu's face up front for the Sydney calls instead of any kind of ghost face mask, you go, okay, then they're not really doing Stu. And they kind of are going, well, I mean, I don't know that they were really trying to like trick the audience necessarily into thinking that Stu might actually be alive, or if they just wanted to create doubt for the characters to be afraid of the possibility of that. And I think they did some good crumbs for that with the guy at the hospital being like, oh, John Doe? Yeah, I heard he was living on the street. He's a drifter in California, and then he murdered a high school girl, and then he got picked up, and he doesn't know who. Yeah, like, they did some good work with that for the characters, but as an audience member, as soon as I saw that, I was like, so that guy's in on it. And I think it's one of those things that's hard to pull.
Yeah, like thank God the amnesia thing wasn't real. Sorry. Just had to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, well, because I think really that is realistically, we talked about this when we did Scream 5, when we could see that they were sort of engaging with the idea of like, is Stu really dead? Could Stu have survived? He's the only Ghostface killer that doesn't get shot in the head, which in universe, with the way that they talk about it, leaves some room for his survival. But how could we make it 4 movies later and have that never be mentioned in universe that he survived actually and didn't die? So I think the John Doe story is really like the only plausible way that Stu could be alive. And what I would like to posit instead is that we don't need Stu to be alive to have someone who looks like Stu, who could pretend to be Stu, whether it's someone who has like done whatever they need to do to look like Stu, or someone who is just, the doppelganger theory. There's like people out there in the world. Yes, Sydney, I call on you. Popcorn Sydney.
A random obsessed fan decides he wants to look smacks at Stu and get caught.
Right, like
Gets plastic surgery to look like Stu.
To look like Stu.
And that's why they're like, Pooka! Like they're doing like Stu to his like biggest, because it's like they've locked on to this. Or it could be like an actor who played Stu in the Stab movies, who got really attached to the character, and all these years later they haven't let go of it, and they're like, they didn't get justice for Stu. He didn't have a big moment the way they brought Billy back in the Stab movies, but not, you know what I mean? Like there's room to do that, but you have to let go of the idea of Stu Macher surviving. And I watched a TikTok the other day. Somebody asked Matthew Lillard at some event recently, like, were you kind of sad when you agreed to come back for Scream 7, but you discovered or realized or told that you are playing Stu, but not really, Stu's not really back? And he was kind of saying like, oh, I always, I was so excited to get the call. I'm always glad to be involved. I've been like waiting to be invited back forever, especially after the disappointment with Scream 3. But he was basically saying like, yeah, it is a little disappointing because he wants to be number one on the call sheet. Like he wants to be the star in many ways. And he was saying in his career, he just like hasn't had that opportunity a lot, which is sad. He, as you know, we love him. He should have every opportunity.
Yeah.
But
he has every opportunity on this podcast.
Rolls big and small,
that's
baby.
what he's looking for, yeah.
But I think, you can have Matthew Lillard in the Scream movies if you release the idea of Stu. But now they've used that, you know what I mean? So now they can't do that anymore either, I think, really. So I don't know. It's like, I think it's an interesting idea. And I think Matthew Lillard did a good job. He both feels like Stu still. And also, I felt like you could see the mannerisms in his, like, the AI Stu performances that you can recognize in the cadence of the way that the killers speak later when they're revealed. Like you can hear it sort of in their voices if you're looking for it. But I don't know. It was, again, one of those things where it's like, this is such a cool idea for the movie. Now, how are we like meaningfully putting it into practice in universe for the characters who in this universe are real people? And it was, again, one of those things that was like, cool idea, a little flat on the execution.
I feel like, okay, whatever. I hate deepfakes. Okay, it could have been a fine idea, and I have a personal beef. Whatever, fine, okay. It's just like who the killers actually ended up being. I feel like it's like a cheap knockoff of 5, where it's like
and also 3, where they had the voice changer.
I don't remember.
Oh, the voice changer was a big thing in 3.
What?
Because they're like faking the phone calls. They do it in the beginning on the phone call with Cotton Weary. He's in the car and he thinks he's like talking to a hot girl, and then it like slowly changes into the Ghostface one. And they do it to lure. I don't remember if they do that to lure Sydney to the house at the end, or if they pretend to be Sydney to lure Dewey there. But that's another one of the ones. Other people. Yeah,
well, and good point there too.
What is it? Jenny McCartney. And she's on the phone with Roman.
With Roman.
The killer, but Roman's the killer, but like we don't know it at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, great point. Great point. That's also very similar to the deep fake angle, but like what I'm saying, like with the killer reveal, like it feels like it's another like obsessed fan angle.
Yeah.
And that was but like way worse. They like it's the same thing again. Like a lot of these other kills have had like some sort of family connection or whatever, or like a real vendetta that you could understand. And then in 5 it's, spoilers for 5. It's, oh my god, what's her name? What's that actress's name who just won the Oscar?
Oh, Mikey Madison.
Mikey Madison. I was thinking of her name in
Amber
Nora.
Freeman.
Yeah, I was thinking of Amber, and I was like, is her real name Amber? I got confused.
Oh, Honora.
Anyway, yeah. Mikey Madison, gorgeous queen, and Jack Quaid, cutie extraordinaire, who are both like connected in some ways, but are also like psycho stab fanatics, and that's like their connection. And I don't know, Jack Quaid in particular feels like that character feels very similar to what Anna Camp comes out to be here, where he like was obsessed with the stab movies and then got himself involved with someone who's connected to it. And then Anna Camp was obsessed with Sydney specifically, sees her as her personal lord and savior, and then moves so she can be her next door neighbor and inserts herself into her life. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna circle back to Anna Camp, but I want to talk about the New York of it all for a second.
Oh yeah, let's do New York. Welcome to New York. Welcome to New York.
When we saw the movie together, Monica afterwards was like, I should have done a sigh count for the amount of times that Chelsea let out a deep sigh during the movie. And I feel like
I thought that was really
95% of them were when they consistently brought up New York and the fact that Sydney didn't go to New York. And like, look, when 6 came out, I was super butthurt about the fact that Neve Campbell wasn't in that movie. I thought it was outrageous. I again think just like this one with Melissa Barrera, it's another example of the studio having no concern about the people who helped them make the movie. They're just like, we're gonna have a movie. So, oh no, Neve Campbell wants to be paid her whatever her rate is to be in the movie. Well, we don't really need her. She's not really part of this franchise anymore. We've moved on. Like, we just won't have her. And then when the movie goes, where's Sydney? We'll go, she's happy somewhere. Don't you want that for her? Like, that made me so mad. And so I think to some degree they learned from that, in that they just didn't even mention Sam and Tara at all in this movie, even one single time. I don't think, not even Chad and Mindy.
Nope.
And so maybe, I mean, I think that they probably were just like, we're not even gonna we're not inviting that conversation. We're just not even going to touch it. Who knows if that was a good or a bad call. Yeah, they don't want to close the door. Although, frankly, I think that door's closed.
I agree.
There's no way that Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega would ever agree to come back. I just don't think that is on the cards at all, even a little bit.
I agree.
But they, for whatever reason, like, okay, what I was saying was I was mad at the time that was how they were handling the Neve Campbell, Sydney's not in this movie of it all. But now that I have some distance on 6, it's like, why the fuck would she be there? Like, yes, we saw her in 5 and she travels to be part of this, but this is like the first thing in a long time. And it's like back in her hometown again. And also, we didn't know where Sydney was living. So they didn't really imply what that kind of travel and distance was. It could be that she was somewhere else in the same state. She just needed to drive for a few hours. We didn't know that presumably she's living in Pine Grove, Texas or whatever.
Indiana.
Did they say she was in Indiana?
Wikipedia says it's in Indiana.
I think you thought that it was Texas because there was that movie theater that was called Dallas. And it was playing Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
This movie takes place in Indiana?
That's what Wikipedia says.
This is news to me, girl.
In the middle of, where is Woodsboro? In California.
California.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, in the like as I was watching
Who's
it the
looking
second
in
time.
Indiana though, Chelsea? It's the perfect hiding spot.
Well, during the movie, Chelsea was like, she doesn't know how to use a gun. They live in Texas, and I was like, oh,
And her
we're in
dad's the police chief. I was like, this
Texas?
is outrageous.
I was like, I did not pick up that we were in Texas. And then I was watching it this time and I was like, what about it is Texas? And then I saw the thing that said Dallas. The movie theater marquee says Dallas, and they're playing Texas Chainsaw Massacre during the montage of the curfew. And I was like, maybe that's why Chelsea knows this is in Texas.
Yeah, it says in Pine Grove, Indiana, Sidney Prescott has built a new life for herself.
Why would she
I'm
move to
shocked to
Texas?
hear
Is
that
she
this
a
is
Republican
Indiana.
now?
Because Indiana is a blue state all of a sudden.
Okay, well, Texas is giving more Republican to me. I'm sorry.
Texas is giving gun owner, which Sidney Prescott is.
She could be that.
Okay, well,
anywhere.
I'm gonna have to
This
reformat
movie
my
takes
thoughts.
place in Indiana.
Not
Too
Texas.
long for the title.
This movie.
Whatever. Anyway, it's like, okay, I guess she flew from Indiana to California and Scream 5 or
Indiana
whatever.
is gonna be the title of the movie. In Indiana?
I'm shocked. No, you don't understand the level of shocked I am to hear this. At first, I thought you
There
were
was
saying they
nothing
established in Scream
Texas
5 that she
about
lived in Indiana, and I was like, and she's moved since then to Texas.
I can't believe you
This
don't
is a
know
lot for me
that.
to digest. Anyway, it makes perfect sense that she would not be in Scream 6 because the attacks have nothing to do with her, even a little bit. It's all like Stab related, Stab the movie franchise more than anything else, and like Billy Loomis's daughter who was involved now. It's like they've moved on both the attacks and the movie, and Gail is there because she lives in New York in that movie. She's local. And Hayden Panettiere comes and Kirby comes back in that movie. Kirby would have been great to have in this one.
Kirby.
Kirby
forgot
comes
about
back in
Kirby.
that movie because she is in the
FBI.
FBI, I think.
Yeah. That's what you told
and
me. Yes.
I know that's what I said, but I'm also I feel like she could have been.
I also
and
thought
I'm,
it
like,
was taking place in Texas. So
I'm like, did they say in that movie she was in the GBI because they said that she was like down in Atlanta, I think, investigating the Ghostface killers from the beginning of the movie who get killed by the Ghostface, who's the overarching Ghostfaces for that film. She was like investigating them because they had some sort of ties
she's in
there.
The FBI. She is in
FBI.
The
Okay. But it makes sense. It's like federal crimes. You know what I mean? They came from somewhere else. They're getting things from other states, from crime scenes, whatever. It makes sense for those two people, a reporter who is local and federal law enforcement who is investigating these crimes, to come to this location and be involved. It doesn't really make sense for Sydney to go out of her way to, and it's perfectly, there are 1,000 reasons why she would not be doing that. You know what I mean? You don't have to be like, I should have been there. Like, you can have like a dialogue between her and Gail, but for whatever reason, they decided that they needed it in their hearts to be a character choice for Sydney to have decided not to go. They could have been like, she was literally out of the country. You know what I mean? There are 1,000 things they could have done. And they didn't even call her, and she was like, no, I'm busy. You know what I mean? It was like, they're like, we're not going to bug Sydney with this. We're not even going to reach out to her about this. And so for her to be, for them to assign it to her as a character choice and have her having to explain 7 different times in this movie why she didn't do it and that she regrets it, it's so annoying, first of all. Second of all, it's like, now I feel like it's this weird in-universe blaming that Neve Campbell wouldn't agree to be part of she should have been there, no matter, you know what I mean? She's saying, I should have been there. It's like, what did they want her to do? I don't know. It just pissed me off.
I think that it needed to be acknowledged once. And like I already said, I enjoyed the conversation that came from Gail and Sydney talking about it, and like Sydney saying, I should have been there. It's not like, all the stuff where they're like, Sydney chose not to be there, whatever. That wasn't what was being discussed in this single instance I'm referring to. Sydney saying she regrets that she wasn't there to like help Gail, which I think is fine for her to say that, because I think that her staying home, if it was because of whatever reason, like no matter what, her very close friend was stabbed in the hands and shit, whatever. I can't remember exactly what happened to her, but definitely in her head. And so I think that was fair, and I thought that was a brief moment of like good emotional development of a character in this film, when like, you know, Gail was still being herself in that interview and like taking it too far and all of that.
I thought that was good.
And I liked that. That was like, that's who
classic
she is.
Gail.
That's classic Gail, exactly.
She can't not be herself.
You can't not be yourself.
She can't help herself, literally.
No, exactly. She has to get the good story. And that is the angle of this whole movie. So yes, Gail understands that, because she wrote the Woodsboro murders, in case you didn't know. She wrote the book on this shit. But like, that moment afterwards, when, you know, Sydney's finally like, how would you feel if I asked you how you were doing about Dewey? And then, you know, Gail totally like breaks down in that moment. That was like a shocking moment for me to like feel emotions, because everything had been so like 1 centimeter deep the whole rest of the movie for me. And so that was really nice to see, even though it was heartbreaking, because I still don't think they should have killed Dewey. He was such a sole character to this franchise, and I you can really feel his absence. But you know, seeing Gail like break the facade for a second and have to take whatever that pill was to calm down, and like holding herself, like that was really, really good. Like, there are good moments in this movie. But I find them to be few and far between.
I also just think it's interesting that like this is the first time basically in 7 movies that we've seen characters have any sort of like physical ailments related to any of the attacks in previous films. Like Chad is a fucking pincushion for 2 movies straight, and he's fine and just chilling this movie. They're like, he's young and robust. Like, he's gotten stabbed minimum 20 times.
We really thought he died in the last one.
If you want him to have survived that, that's fine. But it is crazy to me that Gail having a hand tremor is like the first time they've meaningfully acknowledged in universe that any of these characters have been physically attacked over and over and over again.
Didn't Dewey have like a limp or something?
Dewey had a limp, I think.
Yeah, Dewey had like some physical
and 2, it's
issues.
like Dewey survives getting stabbed in the radio station on campus or whatever because he had scar tissue from the first movie.
There we go.
That's what it was. Yeah, so this isn't the first.
But also in 5,
like, other than that,
he have like issues related to all of his other stuff.
Yeah, and he like developed a drinking problem and had to quit the force. So I feel like they have shown that it's not just been like the focus. I'll give them that. They have shown that more than you'd expect. But I just also think like this movie already was not doing that much for me. And then like Sydney, I know, not you, Sydney. I'm talking to Sydney, the character. I'm sorry about that. It's very confusing.
Sydney Prescott Evans.
Sydney Prescott Evans with Sydney with an I. Why would you go on foot to save your daughter when you could
steal Gail's car?
Say, Gail, get your ass out here, and we're taking the car. Like, you can drive faster than you can run. That is just, this is.
But they live in a small town. Everybody walks. We saw them walking in the beginning.
It's very walkable.
Drove us an off-road ride.
It's very walkable, but then she never makes it there in time, and then she's like stopping to look at the video.
Right? Why isn't
like,
she continuing to
run
doing the cameras?
I thought it was so weird. It was just so weird. I did like her being able to see the video cameras and like teaching Tatum what to do and how to kill it. Like, I thought that was cool. Like, that was fine with me. But I just, all of the logical choices leading up to that moment that Sydney was making really bothered me. And also, just so I don't forget, there was a point where Sydney calls Mark on the phone and it showed the phone. And both times I saw it, I swear to God, it was spelled Sydney with a Y, and that can't be true.
I feel
That
like I thought I
can't
saw
be
that at one
true.
point too.
That literally cannot be true. I have to be wrong. But I thought it both times that it looked like
Oh my God, y'all are
SYDNEY.
just so
And then
Maybe it's just like
obsessed with
memory where
me.
we see Sydney why Sydney's name written out so often that it's like that's what we're expecting maybe. Because I
I'm
feel like I
hoping it
was
was
like
that.
at some point I started like checking for it and it was in the interview with Gail on the TV, but it had
That
Sydney
was
with an I,
correct.
and I was like, okay, they're
It was
spelling it
just
right, so
that
maybe I'm
phone.
imagining that the rest of the time.
It was just that phone part, that one phone call, and both times I thought it. So if anybody has a way to bring your
Maybe
binoculars into the
when
theater, I'm not going to see it again. So you have to do it.
maybe after she met her husband Mark Evans on her book tour for Out of the Darkness when she was in Barnes and Noble, Indiana, and he came, they met, and he has
Please don't try to explain this away. Just stop.
he
Let me
can't
stop you
spell,
right
and so he
there.
put it in wrong and he never changed it, and now it's a cute little
It's
And
a
he
thing
doesn't
where
fun
it's like
respect her, so
inside
he won't
joke.
put her name correctly.
yeah, I know. I think it is just there's so many things where they talk about that in Scream 1 where it's like, why run up? You should never run up. And then it's like in the moment when she's trying to run out the front door, the chain is still on it. So she can't get the door open. She doesn't have time to unchain it. She only has time to like pivot and run upstairs. But it didn't feel like they had enough behind the motivations that make them do the stupid thing in this movie. It felt like a lot of the time they just made kind of stupid decisions. And you can do that to some degree with the teens, being like, yeah, there's a killer who attacked me in my home, but I'm going to sneak out anyway because I'm feeling useless and I survived an attack just now, so maybe I feel a little invincible or whatever. But there's so many things like that. I don't know. I think it's really hard to jump from Sydney, no husband, no kids. We get one glimpse of a stroller and the implication of a family to here's Sydney with her teenage daughter, because you're just missing so much of what their life might have been in those in between times. That, like, okay, yes, turns out they're not in Texas. But her Tatum's dad is a police chief and her mom is Sydney Prescott. And even if her mom wanted to raise her to not be the way that Sydney is and to feel safe and protected in the world, like she talks about with her neighbor Jessica in the beginning, it's like, but you didn't do, I just don't believe that they wouldn't put her in karate or something. You know what I mean? Like any kind of self defense class just to be a person in the world. You don't have to
Yeah,
be a person anticipating being murdered in the world to
to
be a
be
person
prepared.
who we want to teach her to be strong. We want her to teach her be confident. We want to teach her how to live within her body and have control of her body. Like there's one thing, her dad is the police chief and she's never touched a gun before. Like it just doesn't,
That tracks to
it
me.
doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it's fine, but it's another thing. I don't know. I wanted there was a moment when Carl, the first killer, attacks them in their house, and I guess when he like has a knife to Tatum's throat, and they walk out from behind, and Mark has the gun, and I think he says like drop or something, and Tatum like
Draw.
draw. What does that mean in that
I think that,
context?
well, I think that does indicate that they did have some sort of shit that they've talked about.
That's what I thought at first too, but then it was so like I don't know how to do anything that I was like, so that's not like I don't need them to be like in Psych where his dad is a police officer and he's been like training him since he was 5 years old to survive all manner of scenarios and always be on high alert and blah blah blah. But I want there to be something there other than them going, she's shy and she doesn't know how to do anything. And then we see her, and honestly, she seems like relatively confident enough for a teenager. She's not overly confident, but they keep being like, she's timid.
She's not
She seems
confident
normal
enough
I
to
feel
play
bad
Fluffy,
for-
okay?
She's not bringing life to Fluffy. She can't see
Also-
through Fluffy's eyes.
Oh my god, I'm so
Why
glad
is
that
this
you
like a
said
Peter
something.
Pan knockoff?
It is. I'm so glad that you said that, because it reminded me of this moment where I watched it today, and I was like, the writing in this. She was like, "Do you think I'm timid?" Like right after she fucks it as Fluffy and gets shot down by Timothy Simons. She's like to Ben. She's like, "Do you think I'm timid?" Blah blah blah. He's like, "You have this shy quality about me." And then she's like, "I want you to tell me what you like about me." And he's like, "Oh no, it's too cheesy." And then she like straddles him, and she's like, "Tell me anyway." And he says the dumbest fucking shit I've ever heard in my life. He literally is like, "Sometimes you say something and it's so funny. Later on, I think about it and I laugh again." And she's like, "That was a really good answer." And they're like,
Well,
Yeah, unfortunately, that is just
I liked-
two people being
yeah.
17. You can't tell me, Monica, that
I
that would
liked
not
that
have worked on you at
answer.
17 years old. I know it would have.
I could not imagine it, because no one ever said anything like that to
But
me, even
exactly.
remotely, when I was
Imagine
in high
if somebody
school.
had said something
Well-
like, you would have also been smooching on them as well. You would have been like, that's
That
so
was an
romantic.
Oh my god. Actually, okay,
I
no,
do
if somebody
think
said
that-
I was funny in high school and I knew it. If someone was like, "Sometimes you say things that are really funny and then I laugh later," I would have been like, "Duh, of course. Like, that's my comedy for you." It's not that good of a compliment. She needs
Well,
to
I
aim
think
higher.
it is a good enough compliment for a 17-year-old boy. And again, this is just the 17-year-old boy of it all. But the first thing that he says before that is something like, "I like the way you look at me," or like, it's so like, "Here's what you do for me, and that's what I like," as opposed to like, "Here's something about you, and that's what I like."
Men.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, that's can easily just be chalked up as man. But that's what I'm talking about, is they're so like, she's timid, she's shy, and then she's like, "I'm telling you what to do, and I'm doming you right now, and I'm climbing into
I'm
your lap, and I'm on
straddling
top
you."
of you, and I'm bossing you around." And I'm like, yes, they have a relationship that is established, and so you can show that she can be a version of herself with him that she's not in other scenarios. But it's like, we see her fighting with her mom and doing pushback with her mom, and we see her talking with her friends, but you keep telling us she's timid, and I'm not seeing her be timid until she is like being attacked by a killer and she's scared, which I think is a very
And
reasonable
she
response.
literally just watched her boyfriend get stabbed to death after she bashed him in the fucking face with a computer, which
Yeah,
I
that
did
was
like that
good.
part.
I love seeing
That was
a
pretty
blonde
And I
man get
liked
beat.
that like misdirection moment.
You like to see a blonde man get beat up?
I
Is
do.
that what you just said?
I stand by that.
Yeah, that was a good misdirection with him, like trying
Where it's
out
like
the
they asked him,
AI.
"Is this possible? Do you know about this?" And so he's like trying to figure it out and trying to be like, "How would I do? Is it because he's examining it in the tavern we see, and he's like, there's almost no artifacts here." So he's like, it could be real, and I think he's trying to be like, can the lay person make something as high quality as this? And we find out later it doesn't even need to be a lay person. Guy killer worked in AI tech space or whatever. So like,
Yeah.
it doesn't even need to be the tools that an average person would have access to.
Yeah.
But
yeah. What? Oh wait, no, I had something good to say. Okay, you say something. I'll come back to me.
one thing I wanted to talk about earlier that I said I would circle back to, and I don't remember necessarily like why I thought it was relevant to whatever we were saying. But Anna Camp as the killer, because we've already said so. I don't know how you guys know it by now. But her as the killer and her motivations being that she read Sydney's book, and so it's the same kind of like fan thing. While again, it is kind of a similar motivation to what we've seen before. I liked the idea of it, that somebody would be like not invested in the movies necessarily, but invested in like the real person, the real story. Again, it's getting into like the true crime of it all. But that they would read her book and get so parasocially invested
I
that
think that's a good concept.
that they need access to her in real life. It is a good concept, but the timeline of it all doesn't make any sense to me, because she keeps saying like, I read your book, which came out in Scream 4, and then you didn't go to New York and you disappeared. It's like, when did she move next door? How long has she been there? How long has this relationship existed? Did she only move next door after Sydney didn't go to New York? And she was like, wait, Sydney not boss queen killing ghost faces anymore? What's going on? I need to get to the bottom of this and see for myself. She seems like she's a fake and a phony and not living up to my ideals of her anymore. And so now I need to make a new badass girl boss Ghostface kill. I can't quite fully grasp what her desired outcome was as Ghostface, because she's like, I'm gonna kill Sydney in front of Tatum to make a new Sydney, the way that Sydney saw Maureen Prescott be killed in front of her. And it's like, okay,
so what?
but actually,
you just trying to get Tatum to write a book in 10 years? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like what I don't, and also Sydney did not become a badass after Maureen Prescott died, and she either saw her in her dying moments or found her dead body or whatever. Like, the Sydney that we first meet in Scream, yes, she punches Gale in the face one time, and like, yes, we see her fighting off ghost faces, but she is going through, like, she's not a badass girl boss queen in that movie until she emerges at the end as a final girl, hardened by this new experience. It was like she was like soft and sensitive and hurting and like needed her loved ones to be there for her. And I think that that was like a great journey that we watched. But to be like, I'm gonna do to her what happened off screen before the movie started in the first Scream to get the Sydney that we see at the end of Scream 4, like, it just doesn't quite.
Well, okay, I get what you're saying, but they just flipped it and reversed it, because she's gone through the same thing, not the exact same thing, but a similar thing to what Sydney's gone through, where she watched all of her friends get murdered. It just happened before the mommy die part. So
Yeah,
she did do that, but it still doesn't make sense. It still doesn't. I still don't really get that angle.
She wanted there to be a new Sydney, to be the inspiration for her the way that the old Sydney was, but she reveals herself as the killer. So does she intend for Tatum to survive or not? Or did she want to, like, she's not framing herself as a survivor the way that we see the plan was a lot of times before. So I'm like, what did she want to? I mean, I think it's very easy to go, she's crazy bitch, she was in the mental institution, obviously it's not a good plan,
but like in, so she knew she needed help, so that brings some self-awareness.
The mental illness being the motivation, and like mental illness being the villain again in many ways, also annoying.
Yeah. Okay, here's an idea. Because, yeah, I agree with you. What is she actually trying to get out of this? She's going to kill her parasocial crush, and then that person's going to be gone. And what? She's going to replace her with this 17-year-old girl? Like, there's no end game that makes any sense. Here's an end game that makes sense that I just came up with right now. We got to make it gay. It would make a lot more sense to me if her whole issue here is that Anna Camp's character is obsessed with Sydney, sees her as this like shining light, and it's this girl boss who fights, like inspired her to kill her husband and get away from her problems, that were, very actually fucking up her life. She had a very abusive husband, and she was this big source of inspiration for her. But now she's gone away. She's not fighting anymore. She's trying to live this happy life. Well, what are the obstacles that are actually keeping Sydney Prescott from being who Anna Camp's character wants her to be? It's her family. Her family is what's keeping her from being that girl boss from before. She stayed back from New York, if she made that choice or whatever you want to think about it. Because she's happy now. She has a family. She wants to keep her children safe. She has a loving husband named Joel McHale.
He's too lanky to be a police captain, in my opinion.
Don't body shame him. Don't body shame him.
I don't believe him as a police captain or Sydney's husband. I think it's such outrageous casting.
Okay, well, be that as it may. What makes more sense to me is what if, like, she, by the way, okay, this is part of this. If you're doing the math of who kills who, Anna Camp kills her own son.
Yeah, she absolutely does.
Yeah, it literally is. It actually is, because the guy who gets the guy is the one who gets shot by Tatum, and then the other killer walks up because they've been walking from Park Tavern, and that was Anna Camp. So Anna Camp did all those kiddos in. So what would make more sense to me is that she was gonna annihilate her whole Sydney's whole family, so Sydney will be alone again and be this badass person, and then Anna Camp just killed her
newly
whole family.
hardened instead of softened by having a family that she loves and cares for her.
Exactly. And then the twist of all twists could be, not the twist of all twists, but a twist could be like, okay, you think it's her and this new boyfriend guy who worked at Fallbrook at the institution, but then she turns on him, kills him, and is like, Sydney, we should be together. And then it could be that. I think that would be actually really good. I know we just make things gay all the time, but I actually think that would be really good, and that makes more sense to get her to, because then that's like the real parasocial thing. Like, it doesn't have to even be lesbian. It just be like, we're besties, right? So like, we're badasses who kill the people in our lives who try to bring us down. Like, I don't know. That makes more sense to me.
I think that's interesting. I also think you could do a similar thing where she just doesn't even plan on having like a big killer revealed monologue, and that she was planning to, once everybody Sydney loves is dead, and once her own son has been killed by Ghostface, being like, we're widows together and we've lost our children together, and we're best friends who live next door to each other. Let's you and I face the world together.
Yeah,
and like
that works
trying
too.
to hide the fact that she was the killer. Or it could even just be that, like, she is mad that Sydney is not what she wanted Sydney to be, but pulling a Sydney, as she says, and killing her husband made her feel empowered, and so she's gonna kill them all again. And she doesn't need to be publicly tied to she doesn't need to be a survivor. She doesn't need to be the killer. She just needs to know internally, I'm alpha mogging on Sydney Prescott. And I'm kill maxing the Ghostface.
I'm gonna kill max myself if you keep talking about this.
It's really fun to say. Once you're in it, I said jester maxing today in a text conversation, and honestly, I hee-hawed the entire time. Also,
the Alyssa Liu gold medal winning video of that, where it's like, we're jester maxing blah blah blah, we're woke mogging on blah 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 blah. Love that video.
I loved when Anna Camp was like, I'm pulling a Sydney and I murdered my husband, and I go, I hope everybody does that. Actually, because I literally recently said, you know what, divorce unchic, having a couple husbands who just mysteriously die and some allegations that you've murdered them with no proof. Chic, glamorous, one might say.
Classic glamorous.
Yeah, and that's
shit.
my goal now.
But yeah, I mean, I think it would make sense for Anna Camp to just decide that is Sydney's not what she wants her to be. She's going to destroy Sydney, and she's going to torture her in doing so. But it's the same kind of thing again, where it's like, we have the scene setting with Tatum tied up in the backyard, like with the cold open of Scream, with Drew Barrymore and her boyfriend Steve out on the patio. And so it's like paralleling that, and it's paralleling Sydney and her mom. But what is like the deeper use of it other than to be a parallel? And it's that same kind of thing where it's like they're referencing, but what is the point of the reference other than to be a reference. And they're just like muddying the waters of the in-universe logic by being like, here's what I want to give to the audience of this movie.
Yeah. That said, like I agree with what you've said here, but I do think that Anna Camp's monologue is like a highlight of the film for me, not because I think it necessarily makes sense and it's like so good. I just gave you a way better version. By the way, in case you just forgot. But like her performance fucking rocked so fucking hard. I love her voice. She's got such a little cutie voice, and like the Pilates
Oh yeah,
part,
that was funny.
and when like the guy distracts her from what she was saying, and she's like, "Fuck, I lost my place. Fuck, where was I? New York, Pilates." And he was like, "Fallbrook," and she was like, "Fallbrook, okay." Like it just was so funny. Her shrill ass little voice. I thought that performance was amazing, and I loved the sound of her voice when she says the word Sid. Just sounds really good. I just thought that she killed what she had to work with. No, I did not think that that's what it should be, but I think she killed that performance. And I did not notice the first time I saw this movie that they shoot her so many times in her face that her jaw falls off. I just didn't there's a lot of things going on and I didn't notice that. But yeah, they shoot her so many times in the face that her jaw falls off and her face is like a big butthole at the end. There's like nothing left. It's just a caved in hole. And I was like, wow. that's new. Really destroyed her. Really got her good, I guess. So
that did feel like the one moment in the movie. I guess McKenna Grace's organs splattering across the stage too. But those felt like the two moments of like good gore, and Jimmy Tatro of really good gore from the new modern Scream era. And then everything else was like okay, like Mindy and Chad got like swipes, you know what I mean? And then they're still fine by like.
That was so ridiculous because they both got stabbed and they fell down and then they were just like, we got out of the way. So we don't have to write anything more for them. Like, it was so... It was literally a literal push aside. And then they fell on top of each other into the fetal position. I was like, is that what they were like in the womb? How cute.
I think that is a problem of the franchise and any horror franchise that goes on this long that's like this, where there are characters that carry through. It's kind of the same thing they're saying with Halloween that they reference in this movie a little, where it's like final girls don't get happy endings. That's why they keep bringing Jamie Lee Curtis back for new Halloween movies. It's like, if it's the character that you care about, you want to see them go through, but how much of an appetite does the audience have to see A, a hero become the villain, or B, a hero get killed off? And if you don't want to kill off your heroes, then you're constantly introducing new characters to just get murdered. And so like, how developed do they really get? And I think it's just a really tough needle to thread, and I don't know necessarily how successful the Scream franchise is doing it as a whole, because like Dewey's absence is so present in 6 and in 7, and it is like such a loss to not have Dewey anymore. But if Dewey didn't die, then it's like the core 3 from the originals have survived 7 movies, and now we're introducing the core 4 from the new modern ones. And it's like, again, Chad Pincushion Meeks Martin, who gets stabbed 50 million times and is back for more, and he just goes, I don't want to get stabbed tonight, and that's like the only acknowledgement we get of everything that has happened to him. And so it's like, I don't know. I don't know that there is a right answer of how to do this, but it felt like a lot of the characters this time around, Chad and Mindy, they get like one little swipe just to be like, and we don't have to worry about them until the ending. They don't look like they're dead, but also they're injured, so don't expect them to come back later. And I don't know, it's I think really tough with the horror of like who do you want to survive and who can you stomach losing? And I think this movie, I both don't want to lose any of the characters that survived, other than Mark. Don't give one shit about Mark.
I really thought he was
But
dead.
I really thought he was dead. I didn't care about him dying, but I think the movie, I think Kevin Williamson, in deciding to come back and write a new Sydney movie, didn't have an appetite to kill Sydney's husband and have Sydney in the future have lost her husband of presumably almost 20 years. And so it's the same thing. They say one time takes a lot to take Mark down, and then he's still alive by the end, and then he goes away in the ambulance by the end and is presumably going to be fine again. And I don't know, it's just one of the it's a tough thing to do as a writer, because, and this was, I think we've talked about this amongst ourselves a little bit with like Stranger Things, you know what I mean? Did that show kill enough people, versus if you kill somebody, do you have to deal with the character journey of grieving somebody? And is that going to bog down your story in other ways in the future that you don't want to deal with, so you don't kill anybody?
But then there's no real stakes.
Yeah, but then there's no stakes, so we're only killing people we don't care about. And
no, it's impossible, because like last episode, last season, last movie, like Chad should be dead. Like Chad should be dead. But I was so happy that he didn't die because I love him so much. You know what I mean? So like,
and like Mindy without him, that she would not be the same.
We just watched Twinless. We can't go through that again.
Great film, by the way.
You should see that fucking movie. Oh my god! If you liked Dylan O'Brien and Send Help, wait till you see him do an almost like should have been nom for an Oscar performance. I don't know about that, but it was really fucking good. Yeah,
there's something I was thinking about that when I was watching this movie. When I was having the thought of like, I can't believe they wouldn't put her in any self-defense classes or anything like that. I was thinking like, but you can only really learn to fight on the streets. And then I was like, what is that from? That I saw something recently where they said this, and I only remembered 3 days later. I was like, oh, that was Twinless. That's like dialogue in Twinless, where it's like, you gotta learn. You can't learn to fight in class. You gotta learn to fight in the streets.
I texted and my friend Maggie. I was like, we should take some self-defense classes and learn how to like beat people up. Like,
I took Krav Maga.
I used to fight. I was that kid in school that was fighting. I was in the streets. Like,
I learned Krav Maga, and then I never got into a fight, but I learned Krav Maga. And one time, this guy stole something from me and was running away. He's at school. He like stole something from me, and I needed to leave school, and my mommy was there waiting for me, and I was like, give me it back, and he was like, no, and he was running away. So I went to go like spank it, like slap him on the shoulder to get him to stop. But instead my training came in, and I palm striked him in the spine, and he collapsed to the ground. And I grabbed the thing from him, and I was like, I'm so sorry, and I ran away, and I just left him there on the ground. So yeah, I've been in a fight. One-sided, and I won. But anyway, I think we should move to our, just because we're 2 hours in, but there's more things that will come up along the way. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, I've addressed most of my notes that I wrote down in advance of this recording at this point.
Powdering my nose to get ready for segments. How could this movie how could this movie be gayer? I had one idea already, but we need more gay thoughts. Thank you so much. She doesn't have to be a gay villain, but they really could have like dug in on the parasocial relationship thing. I feel like they just scratched the surface, and I feel like they could have gone harder.
Tatum should have had a girlfriend instead of a boyfriend.
Tatum to me is giving very extremely classic bisexual, where she is like, I'm straight and I have a boyfriend, how could I possibly be gay? And then she's gonna get kissed by a girl in college, and her world's gonna explode, and a whole new world of possibilities is going to open up to her, and she's going to be
was
like,
wearing
whoa.
her mom's butch
Meet a friend
lesbian
in college
thing.
and
She
be
was
like, whoa.
gravitated towards it. She was like, oh, this thing.
Naturally, but I think she's, she's struggling with compet. That said, McKenna Grace, lesbian, she's in love with Tatum.
That tracks.
I'm down for that.
She doesn't have a love interest in the movie the way that Chloe does, where Chloe likes creepy guy.
Yeah, Chloe.
She's just
okay,
like,
I
me
did
and my
love
girl
Chloe.
Tatum. I'm being soft with Tatum. Not you, boy. Get away from me, boy. You think of me as mean and unapproachable.
Yeah, she seemed really hesitant to get into that car. She's like, oh, great. We have to.
Great, we're with Tatum's boyfriend.
Yeah, she's not a fan. Fair. Yeah, too bad that we never get to go to the party and they could have had their first kiss.
Yeah, there we go. There would have been a party scene. We would have met them. We would have gotten to know the characters a little more and felt more attached. There would have been a gay kiss. She would have been like, is it the boyfriend? And then it would have been McKenna Grace as the killer.
McKenna Grace could have been like, he crawled through your window and pretended to be Billy. Like, that's fucking, dump him, girl. You know what I mean? She could have been, she's making her move.
I just also like, I'm sorry if this is crazy to say, but I can lose the sleigh kill on strings or whatever, like the puppet McKenna Grace, which is weird actually after Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
Oh, yeah.
Marionette.
The marionette.
Weird. Okay,
She'll only do horror roles that she's in for 5 minutes, puppet adjacent.
I get that.
Puppet adjacent.
As somebody who
slain.
loves a puppet.
Puppet adjacent slain. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's her niche, I guess. But like, I could lose that kill, even though it was so cool, because I just thought it was so outlandish. Like I had to. I'm a theater kid. Okay, we all are here on this podcast. I had to suspend my disbelief so much to believe that I don't know what that's even called. A rigging. Like rigging. And they'd leave. They would never leave the child actor and the child stagehand to practice that alone without an adult there. That is a lawsuit waiting to fucking happen. I'm sorry. It was just like, I was like, this is wrong. Anyway, I would take no slate kill with the guts everywhere, even though it was very, very fucking cool and she looked like a beautiful guts fairy. And that's amazing, right up my alley. I'd rather have someone get killed in a pool at her pool party. I'd rather that. Whereas if these kids could have fucking gotten to know each other or let us get to know them. Like, I will sacrifice sleigh guts.
You could have kept sleigh guts and just made party before rehearsal, and rehearsal could have been another day.
The next day.
Yeah.
Talking of the characters to each other. Is that crazy to ask for? Let them speak to one another
Valentina.
and show me who they are. Speak, Valentina.
Hello.
Hi.
I think if what's his face Lucas had been gay, then you're kind of getting dangerously close to Scream 4 territory with the guy who is not Charlie, who's in the movie club, and then who at the end is like, I'm gay, if that helps. I think then it's like the guy who's like kind of weird and off-putting and who looks a little similar to each other, and they're obsessed with this and to an unhealthy level, and they can't separate what they see on TV from the reality of a real person standing in front of them, blah, blah, blah. I think that would be a little tricky. That said, I think there's room for that character to be gay. He loves a diva.
That's a bisexual man.
Yes.
Okay. I can get it.
Also, I think that actor is a little cutie patootie, and I like his haunting eyes, and his name is Asa German, and I think that's a crazy name. I love the name Asa.
So
I'm tuned in. Maybe I'll watch Gen V because
the boyfriend would come out as gay in college.
He should have been in the theater. He should have been in the show, and then we could have really known.
He worked in the lighting department.
Should have been brunette. He should have been.
Did he work in the lighting department? I thought Lucas worked in the lighting department.
Yeah, they were up there together, doing it together.
Okay.
They were going wicka wicka.
Yeah.
Maybe he was doing
sound. Secretly kissed.
But they were next to each other.
The male lead. And then him and McKenna Grace are having tension because
that would have been a whole other thing, because then he would have been the one straight man in the theater production that every girl is obsessed with. Yeah.
Heavy is the crown of the one straight man in the theater production that all the girl wants.
Okay, that's why I'm extra mad. This was a group of fucking theater kids being slain, and I could have cared about them. Because I love theater kids, and we all here on the podcast will say it again. We're theater kids. We're in theater
thespians, baby.
Why? They gave us nothing with these thespians.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Yeah. Anyway. Have we talked about Chad bisexual ever?
Chad is obviously a bisexual.
Give me one more reason to be in love with him. Give me another reason. Oh my God, I can't take it.
I noticed Mindy was wearing a she/they pin, which I liked. And I wonder if Jasmine advocated for that. Jasmine, who's also of the she/they pronouns. So I think that was like a fun touch. Obviously, we know Mindy is queer. She did not have a love interest in this movie. They did not acknowledge that Mindy lost their love interest last movie, because they just didn't even really acknowledge anything about that. I loved having Mindy and Chad there. Mindy and Chad don't usually get like meaningful story arcs, more in 6 than they did in 5. In 5 they were there to just be Randy and explain things, and then in 6 they both had love interest because Chad had the thing with Tara that was like sort of
Ortega.
Amorphous and growing, and I liked. But they didn't have storylines here, tragically. I believe that even if he has never met a boy that he is interested in, I can believe that Chad would be theoretically bisexual because his queer sibling has been such a mouthpiece for sexuality, is a spectrum, and there's no man on earth that you would ever like. She's pushed him into basically being a bisexual, whether or not he would have come to that ever on his own, I think, in my heart.
That's fair. Okay, any other gay thoughts we'd like to share?
Sydney Styling, finally. Sorry, I know you were trying to transition, but Sydney Styling, finally. You guys know, I said this in the Discord the other day, where it's like, I'm Chelsea evaluating if she likes a Scream movie. Well, how is Sydney styled in it?
Yeah.
I felt like finally we saw the through line from Sydney in Scream 3 and Sydney in Scream 2. I loved her styling in this movie. However, it was giving gay, and they're giving me this man that she's married to. And if it's not going to be Patrick Dempsey as Mark Kincaid, where we saw the beginnings of a potential romance arc for them at the end of Scream 3. And I know they established her having a husband named Mark in Scream 5 or whatever.
And that was the intention, was for it to be Patrick.
This is what I said to some of our friends the other day. I was like, if they can't bring Patrick Dempsey back, then Mark should have transitioned, and that should be her wife now. And they can bring in a new actress to play Marcia Kincaid or whatever her new chosen name is. And why not? Especially, she could have transitioned at any point in her life. She could have their teenage daughter and their 2 10-year-old kids, or whatever, 7-year-old, however old those children are supposed to be. They could have just had her husband not be present, and he could be off also visiting his mom. But it killed me that they were like, Sydney has a husband, and here he is, and he's Joel McHale. She should have had a wife. And her wife could have been transgender.
I agree. Okay, that brings us
to Mog on
exactly.
Okay, that brings us to Matthew Lillard. Where would Matthew Lillard be in this movie that he's already in?
He could have been real. He could have been not AI.
He could have been himself. He could have actually been. Yeah, he could have actually been. Okay, well, let's talk about this here. I guess that they were trying to do a sleigh with bringing back all the old people, all the old killers that are already dead. But at that point I was so angry that I was like, this is fucking stupid, and I was so mad I couldn't see it with clear eyes. Like, I'm glad all those actors got to go back, and that was very fun. But I was mad at the AI of it all already, so I could not see it objectively. But something that I think slays, that I think you should know about, apparently Mikey Madison was asked to film a little thing, and she said no. They're like,
she's like, are you kidding?
She's like, film it on your phone, like, and she was like, sorry, my selfie camera's broken, and they're like, film it on the other camera, and she's like, sorry, it's also broken.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So queen.
Yeah, I thought that was a conceptually interesting aspect of the film, that the AI allows them to bring not just Stu back, but lots of other people from previous Ghostface attacks, killers, and victims. And I understand that without using actual AI in the movie, they're very limited to who they can include in that segment based on who will actually agree to film something for it. So you can't do everything that I would want them to do with it. But I would have liked to have seen, if we're doing mommy-daughter themes, I would have liked to have seen Maureen Prescott be in some way included there.
Yeah.
Alas. How could we get more Matthew Lillard? Not to beat this drum again, but I do think it would be kind of, they have someone who looks like Stu. We've had stab movies where people played Stu. We're not even going to check in with any of those actors to be like, guy who, they never really assigned that in the movies, except apparently, and I saw it online in Scream 5 or 6 at one point, probably 5, when they're like looking at the IMDb or something for one of the movies, it says like Vince Vaughn played Stu, which is outrageous. Obviously, that is not the case. And they like show a clip of one of the stab movies at some point, and you see like someone who's wearing like the Stu clothes in this Stu blocking in the scene, and it's like, that's not Vince Vaughn, and obviously, but I don't know. I just think if you're bringing in Matthew Lillard in a movie that is so meta about the movies within the movies, we can afford to dialogue a little more with the fact that actors are playing those roles. Yeah. We don't have to contain that just to Scream 3. It could be something fun to engage with.
I agree.
We put him in a couple prosthetics so he doesn't look quite like Matthew Lillard, and he gets to play the actor who played Stu at some point.
It'd be fun. Okay, dumb bitch. It's kind of dumb to kill your son in camp.
Her reasoning behind that is dumb. He reminded me of his father. Well, you had a child with that man.
You fucked him. And
your child is going to end up, unfortunately, being like a man that this thing. Don't have children with people you don't like.
Yep.
Well, I certainly think it could be argued that relationship was not, it's very possible that an abusive husband, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm just saying.
But from what I know. From
5-hour episode.
them, like, he was already abusive, and then they had kids.
Yeah. I don't know who to make the dumb bitch for this
which
one.
I think lends itself more to
for writing
it. Being 100% up to her. Yeah, no, my choice ultimately is this studio. Because I think it was such a, I think not to get into it all too much, but it's a dumb bitch move to fire Melissa Barrera and then refuse to ever make amends in any meaningful way. I think that they were so determined to move forward, that they just rushed a lot of things, and they just threw a lot of things together, and they didn't, I don't know, it's like frustrating to be facing that in the Scream franchise when it's like, in theory, we should have known that from Scream 3 when they moved forward with Scream 3, even though Neve Campbell was not available for as much filming as she was for Scream 1 and Scream 2 because she had other commitments, and Kevin Williamson couldn't come back to write the script because he was busy with other projects, and instead of waiting for those two to be available, they were just like, whatever, we're just going to make do because we want to make a movie. So it's also like, there's
just the
morally
reality of the
complicated
industry.
things like, oh, Harvey Weinstein makes these movies back in the day. You know what I mean? So it's like they're not ever going to be 100% morally, ideologically pure, and nothing is. But they piss me off.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Let's give it to them. Because I know we're going to have a lot to say for our knives out of fives. So, Chelsea, what are people saying now at the current hour of like 4 days after this movie's come out?
Yeah, I checked earlier, so I don't know. It'd be funny to see if it's different now from it was earlier today. But earlier today, at least, on IMDb, this movie had a 6.0 out of 10. And on Rotten Tomatoes, really big disparity here. It had 32% from critics, which is rotten, and 77% from audiences, which is fresh. And I've seen online that this is like the biggest Scream release of all time, maybe? Did I see that right?
That's what my gym teacher was telling me today because I asked her if she liked it. She hasn't seen it, but she said that it like blew the box office wide open. It's crazy.
I don't understand the industry these days where movie theaters are dying, but movies are making more money than they ever have, but also movies have bigger budgets than they ever have, so making more money than they ever have, it's still somehow a flop sometimes. Whatever.
It's like $25 to go to the movies. The ticket prices are way more expensive, so I know doesn't mean they're clearing their budget necessarily in weekend one. But yeah, I get why it did so well at the box office. Like it like goes touted as having like all these like people do love nostalgia. It wasn't for me, but like it had all the bait to get people in seats, you know? And having it be Kevin Williamson and Kevin Williamson directing, you know? Like if you're not fazed by how unjust the Melissa Barrera shit was and how much of a mess that was and like Radio Silence exiting as directors after that, like then
they actually exited before that, and then Christopher Landon came in, who did Happy Death Day, and then he was the one that exited after Melissa Barrera was fired.
Oh, really? So they had exited already?
I had misremembered that when we talked about it on our trailer reaction. But they left because they were working on Abigail. And so they were like just too busy to take it on and weren't interested in like juggling multiple projects at that time, I guess, or couldn't. And so they had already stepped away, and Christopher Landon came in, who I guess was like a PA or something on the first Scream movie. And so he was going to be the director. And then after Melissa Barrera was fired, he said he was getting like death threats to his family for not exiting the project. And he also said, at this point, without Melissa, without Jenna, whatever it's going to be is not the movie I signed on to direct. So I'm not really interested in being involved anyway.
That makes so much more sense because I read that article too, but I just got confused about everybody's
totally understandable.
All these white men names.
Lots of shifting,
yeah. But now it makes more sense because he was like, it was like a dream come true to do this job, which like I thought the Radio Silence guys could say that too, but then it was like a dream that turned into a nightmare, which was a quote that he said, and that makes a lot more sense to me now that like it was like he didn't even get an opportunity to do a Scream movie. It just got yoinked, which is really unfortunate. But anyway, I feel like we should get into our reviews. So who wants to go first?
Sydney, do you want to lead us because you're going to have the highest probably, or do you want to go last to end on a good
last.
Okay. Would you like me to go, Monica, or do you? No.
Okay, well, do you guys want to recap what we've given other Scream movies before?
Sure.
Scream 1, Sydney gave it a 5. I gave it a 4.64. Chelsea gave it a 5. Scream 2, we all gave it a 3. Whoa.
And I said in our Discord the other day, I was like, I think that was not our true feelings necessarily, but
Scream 3, Sydney gave it a 4, but then apparently was convinced to give it a
I argued with her.
4.2 for Jennifer Jolie Steven Stone threesome.
Yeah.
I gave it. This was back in my
You
era
went
where
after her, and so I gave up by then.
I gave it a 3.9876543321. And Chelsea gave it a 6. Scream 4, Sydney gave it a 4.5. I gave it a 3.2 something. Chelsea gave it a 3.35. Scream 5, Sydney gave it a 4.5. Chelsea and Monica gave it a 5. You can see in our old age, we start getting really nice. Scream 6, Sydney gave it a 5. Monica gave it a 4.78. And Chelsea gave it a 4.8. So those are the contexts for you.
I love Josh Segarra. He was in Scream 6, and he was so lovely as Sam's boyfriend, and he's always so charming in everything he's in.
Oh, yeah.
I literally don't remember anything from Scream 6.
Well, you gave it a 5.
Well, he was... I guess
at the time, but it's just not. And some movies do that where I'm like, I like it, I'll never watch it again. And I will never thought about it again.
That's my thoughts about Scream 2 is like, I think that rating reflects how early in our podcast we did it, and the fact that we recorded 2 episodes that night and we got tired. And
do you want to go first, or do you want me to go?
I have no strong feelings.
I'm giving it a 2.5. This is the worst Scream movie by far for me. I'm sorry that I gave Scream 2 a 3, because it should be much higher than this one. I'm not as hateful as I was when I first watched it, but I haven't felt that angry in a movie theater in a minute. Not nearly as angry as I felt with Mother, don't worry. But I was just mad and disappointed, and I feel like we've already done a pretty good job of outlining the reasons why. But I feel like, just to hammer back like my first point, is I feel like they really diverge from one of the main tenets of this film franchise, which is engaging with film culture and horror culture, and in a myriad of different ways. There's so many different ways to do that, and they did it in none of the ways in this movie, except for I guess an argument could be made for the parasocial relationship thing, but I don't think that they stressed that enough. It didn't have enough oomph for me. And then also the true crime stuff that we talked about too, but again, it was muddled with everything else going on. So I feel like it strayed away from what I love about this movie, which is the very witty dialogue, and I was just disappointed, but I'm hopeful. I'm not going to write this Scream franchise off after this. I've been here for too long to give up now. So don't worry. I'll be back for Scream 8 because it's already greenlit. So don't worry. It's happening.
Yeah, I'm hoping to talk my way to a number, but I think there are things in this movie that are interesting ideas and that are well done. I like the aspect of them having the safe house in their home that they can access, and I thought that they did some fun stuff with that in this movie. I think that makes sense for Sydney as a growing character, and then I think there are times that the ball was dropped on like how this kind of character would be developed over time. I think that the mother-daughter theme is interesting, but again, the execution just didn't quite hit for me meaningfully. It felt like that scene with Gail and Sydney really was the most like overarching character development, character arc, character relationship scene in this movie that had like real heart in it. I believe that Sydney loves her daughter, but I didn't like feel what that relationship really looks like the pain of Tatum being like shut out and like not having access to like who her mother is as a person. I think there's a lot that could be explored there. I think there's a lot that could be a really interesting, well done movie. I think the execution was really rushed here, and it in a way that none of the other Screams have so far, but because of the external mess, it really made me have to reckon with the fact that this is a business and not an art in ways that the other Scream movies just didn't. And so that was really disappointing and really frustrating. Um, I think moving forward, my expectations for the Scream franchise will be different. And I'll be less emotionally invested in them being good and more just like a new installment in Scream. Okay, whatever it is whatever it is. I think the numerical system at this point is just like whatever. It's not Scream 7 because it's not the seventh movie in a journey. It's just like the seventh Scream movie. But I'm gonna give it like a I don't know. I'm trying to contextualize within the other Screams. I guess I'm gonna give it a little around what Monica gave, maybe a slightly higher. Because I really wanted a Sydney movie to be focused on Sydney, and we did get that, but at what cost?
At what
so
cost?
I'm gonna give it like a 2.7, I think. I'm giving it a 2.7. Yeah.
That's fair. Sydney, I want to hear beautiful, happy.
I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. I didn't care about half of the like negative like con things. Like I wish they would have like spent a little bit more time with the kids and all this kind of stuff. But like I liked having Sydney back. I liked that we were back in a small town. It made things more like central and cohesive.
Totally.
Like I liked the fact that I don't give a shit about like the timelines or anything like that because like I'm not thinking about a Scream movie that intensely, right? Like I just don't care that much. Like I miss Dewey. I've missed Dewey the last two. I do wish like Gail was a little bit more involved. Like maybe like okay, Gail got fired from her New York gig and so now she's on air in Indianapolis because this movie takes place in Indiana and that's why she was able to get there so quickly. I thought like the beginning like it gave us everything. And because she was like, I saw that this happened and I was here, it was like, that's how we got Gail in. If they're trying to make Matthew Lillard like suspect Stu, of course he's gonna start at Stu's house. Like it makes sense as how like the opening to me, like it does make
That's actually a really good point. I agree.
cohesively as like for the movie. Like it
For
is
the
like
Stu fake out.
like it's a
I've
really
got no
good
problem
setup.
with the beginning. I really like the
Like,
beginning.
and I've seen a lot of people be like, the intro doesn't make sense. And I go, the intro makes perfect sense, quite frankly. And the Joe McHale was a big jump scare for me personally. But like, I don't know. I've always found him charming. So I was a big Community fan. So I thought like they played well together. I liked the daughter. Hated the blonde boyfriend. He should have maybe been a villain. Why not? Just because he's blonde. I'm just saying.
He should have maybe been a brunette. That's what I thought you were gonna say.
Oh no! If he's gonna be blonde, he must commit to be a villain as a man.
At least a bad boyfriend. I mean,
right? The Mark Consuelos. He's in there for 5 seconds. I thought that was like really fun. The kills, I would have liked to see Creepy Man. Like, I know he got like their like first tussle would have been nice. Know what I mean? Like, because we just see him come out and like, like, and I get like maybe like a little more like show not tell. But other than that, like, I saw this by myself. I normally hate seeing movies by myself and it like hinders my like viewing ability. And I had like a really good time. The people in my theater were hooting and hollering and like it was like there wasn't that many people. Everybody was like chatty. Like they were just like, oh my God, girl, what are you doing? Don't do that. Like, and then like they were laughing, they were doing stuff like it's fun. I don't know if like I don't expect much from the Scream movies.
I expect so much from the Scream movies. That's where we
like after seeing all the Scream movies, I don't expect much from them. Like they're a fun slasher romp. Like, and it gave me like I loved seeing fake AI Matthew Lillard. I loved seeing like Roman and Miss Loomis and like all that kind of stuff and like emo Dewey for like 5 seconds.
This is so fucking funny.
Why is his hair like that? Oh my god.
Because he's
just
sad
kills
because he's
me.
dead, Chelsea.
Yeah.
That's what I said in the theater.
He's
Really
emotional.
sad. That's just what David Arquette looks like, I guess.
That's what he looks like now.
But like,
Well, okay. I'm glad you had a good time, Sydney. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people did. Shout out Tom. Tom loved it. Okay. Like I want
Yeah.
people to love it.
I had a
I
good
want
time.
people to have a good time. I prefer to have a good time. I was mad that I hated it so much
Because
because
here's
I
the
hate
thing,
hating
Scream
things.
isn't a highbrow horror like film.
Yeah.
It's just not. Like it's not like an elevated
But
horror thing. Like to
I
me,
know I'm
it's
not
in that same branch as Friday the 13th. Like, you know, it went to New
That's-
York. It's done this. Like it's
I get what you're
cheesy,
saying, but
campy horror.
I think that it's always been a little bit not like higher brow. It's just been a smart film franchise,
Genre
and
aware.
genre aware, and I just felt like it lost a lot of that, and so that was hard for me to take. Like I'm not
It fell
expecting
into
it
the
to not
traps
be
that
a
they would have made
slasher
fun of.
anymore.
I think
But,
I
yeah.
just think a lot like I think a lot of people have not like rose-colored glasses, but maybe like gray, negative kind of glasses based off of like all the
Controversy.
production and stuff of it.
I know. Yeah, for
Like
sure.
I think that colors people's like perspective.
It's definitely part of my yuck.
Yeah.
It's part of the react for sure, but now that I've seen it twice, like I'm stand by what I said, but I'm happy that you liked what you like. We can agree to disagree. And we can all come together and feel better because there's one thing that we all agreed on this episode, and the one thing that we'd agreed upon was that we miss Dewey. And so to save all of us from that pain, our patrons came together and saw what we would feel. They saw it in the future. It's crazy. I don't know how they do it. And they chose next week's episode and to do and they did it to heal our wounds because they chose Eight-Legged Freaks, which stars David Arquette. So we're getting Dewey back next week, and we all get to be happy once again. Isn't that so nice? Just so we can have a little cute time with David Arquette. Maybe he'll have emo hair. He doesn't. I've seen this before. So that'll be fun. It'll be a nice time for everyone.
I've never seen Eight-Legged Freaks, so I'm excited.
I've also never seen it, but I thought you had seen it.
I have.
Yeah,
I
just Sydney.
Sydney hasn't seen it, but it's very fun and silly. It's a creature feature. It's ridiculous. So get ready for some fun in the sun because it takes place in like the desert. Well, is that true?
That's why I think of it as Tremors. As like, yeah, I'm like those are the same movie, but they must not be.
They're not the same movie, but there's definitely inspiration from Tremors there for sure. But anyway, that'll be really fun, and we're excited that our patrons chose this movie that I've been trying to do for several years on the pod. So thank you, patrons. I didn't even influence them. Okay, they suggested
That's just
this.
how deep your actual influence goes, Monica.
She is sending out psychic signals.
Mm-hmm. They don't know. They don't know the mind control that I have. They have no idea. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. And why don't you say, I'm so sorry you didn't agree this episode. That must be so hard. Here's 5 stars as a band-aid for your souls. How about that? Thank you so much. It worked. I feel better. Thanks. Or you can give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. We'll take that too, and it'll go right to our hearts, and we'll feel really nice and good inside. But also, why not follow us on social media? We're at Spooky_Tuesday on pretty much everything except for Facebook and Tumblr, where we're at Spooky Tuesday Pod. Check out our website, spookytuesdaypod.com, one-stop shop for everything Spooky Tuesday. We're also on Patreon. Next week is our patron vote, so you can see it. It's really happening. We're doing democracy once a quarter, and you could be a part of that. So patreon.com/spooky_Tuesday. And then we're also on YouTube. And today we're dressed like our normal selves, except I'm wearing my, based on the book, The Woodsboro Murders by Gail Weathers t-shirt that's covered in an insane amount of cat hair, but you can't see it. And my handmade Scream knife earrings. So Sorry, I had to shout him out. I was like, these are
From her jewelry
Stand
phase.
Yeah, it's when I had a
Exactly.
brief jewelry company for 5 seconds. Don't turn your hobby into a business. Anyway,
Except if it's a podcast.
that's different. We knew this would be a business because we knew we'd be making big money, honey. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye, spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Great18. That's GR818_. And our podcast art is by Ryan Brom, who you can follow on Instagram at Ryan Brom Art. That's RyanBrommArt. Learn more about Spooky Tuesday at spookytuesdaypod.com and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/spooky_Tuesday.